So your benchmark of success totally changes because of exposure.
Yeah.
And exposure doesn't have to be going and sitting in Harvard. It can be from reading books.
सही बात है.
People who don't listen well don't succeed. And if you look at the best leaders across the world, they have this common trait of listening.
If you know the goal and the goal is really large, this seems like success from, like the benchmark of success is really high.
And at different stages, you need to have those experiences. You need to let ego come to your head and make you feel something. You need to feel that rush and power to realize that it's not worth it.
Doing what you love, I believe, is directly proportionate to your circumstances.
And again, I feel like when we have these conversations, you can say these things because you're thinking in retrospect. But this happens over a period of time when you have crossed those territories. When you've crossed those territories and the fights have been ugly and conflict has happened and then you've learned what you could do better, then you can sit and give advice that, okay, don't do this.
For the 10th episode, I wanted entrepreneurs that can add a lot of josh to my viewers. And who better than a couple of my favorite people, the co-founders of Josh Talks, Supriya and Shobhit Banga. This Lifeboat Season 1's youngest and one of the most influential entrepreneur jury. Supriya and Shobhit have a piece of my heart, and you'll see our bond too through this podcast. I've seen them growing, developing, and achieving milestones one after another. एक टाइम था जब जोश टॉक्स को इंडिया का टेड टॉक्स कहा जाता था. आज जोश टॉक्स हर घर में नई उम्मीद की किरण दे रहा है. ये जो तो फाउंडर्स की जर्नी है ना, ये सभी एंटरप्रेन्योर्स के लिए लाइफ बोट है. Because they believe in what they are doing and they aren't afraid of fighting against the odds. From a time when they had to mortgage their parents' houses to pay their employees, to where they are awarded the National Media Award by the President of India, they have indeed come a long way. For the first time ever, Supriya and Shobhit have come together in a podcast of this nature for the Lifeboat to ensure that every entrepreneur is as unstoppable as they are. And that's why their story needs to be heard, because unke failures, unka resilience और unka जोश आपके लिए perfect lifeboat बनेंगे. So sit back, enjoy the episode. कुछ सीखिए इससे, कुछ implement कीजिए, and keep building one step at a time. Watch, like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and let us know how this episode helped you. Welcome to the Lifeboat. Let's dive in.
Welcome to the Lifeboat, guys. How does it feel? For the first time, I guess you guys are having a conversation in your own studio where you are sitting, as against having the whole world come and talk about Josh Talks. कैसा लग रहा है?
People have been asking कि आपकी कहानी नहीं सुनी कभी, आप जोश टॉक कब देंगे? So we have never ever, even individually, shared our story on our own stage, let alone together.
I know. तो feel कैसा हुआ?
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
What do you think? Do you think this is going to have fun? Are we going to have a lot of fun? Supriya?
Yeah, I think the thing is that the logo is a little intimidating and we stay away from it. That's why we never come on this stage, but I'm very excited.
Focus on this logo.
Yes.
Then you won't get intimidated.
Done.
But I'll tell you a little bit about what I'm doing and why it's so special to me and why I have very, very special people also coming in as a part of this. So the concept of this show is called the Lifeboat. And मेरा ये मानना है, and I've said this in a few of the past episodes as well, कि all of us who are trying to do something, and be it whether in the form of wearing entrepreneurial hats, be it whether in the form of a founder, a creator, or even an individual who's working somewhere, right? We all go through lots of situations, lots of aspects, और कभी ना कभी हम डूबते हैं, किसी ना किसी तरीके से डूबते हैं. And at that point of time, what matters is who and what comes across to save us. And that is the concept of a lifeboat. Because it's not necessary that it has to be people. It's not necessary that it has to be a particular person. It could very well be even intangibles. And the whole idea is to have super achievers who are so realistic, who actually have built something, but I've not gone across and done tom-tom about it, not gone across and, glorified it, not gone across and used the leverage of PR, but are actually sitting there to say that हमने कुछ बनाया है, we have created something. That's where the story comes out. That is where the idea is, and our audience, predominantly our viewers, guys are in that age of 24 से maybe 34 तक, 24 to 34, जहाँ पे lot of them are in that formative mindset. Lot of them are thinking of doing things. They are in that cusp, खुद का कुछ करे, कुछ बना ले, कुछ अच्छा सा नौकरी है तो उस पे जाए. So a lot of confusion, lot of fog in their mind. And that's where when they hear true stories, not the glorified stories, not the stories which are meant for PR, but stories which are actually correct, actually real, guides them to a lot of constructs of what's good to be done, or rather what's more important not to be done. And more importantly कि अगर आप एक जगह पहुंचे हो, उसके पीछे के आंसू, उसके पीछे के जगदोजहद, उसके पीछे जो palpitations आए हैं, जो situations आए हैं, bring all of those across. So that's the purpose of Lifeboat. What do you guys think about this? Do you think this is something which you resonate very well with?
Yeah, I think there's so much information on the internet and there are so many stories that are going out there, but very few stories strike an emotional chord, right? Like, I don't think I've been on a podcast before or had a conversation where it genuinely felt like it was real, where it wasn't just about how much capital have you raised, how do you deal with your investors, what's next for the company, but it's about the person who's actually building the company. So I think there is a need for this. There is a need for heart-to-heart conversations, and I think why you work here is because you're trusted, right? Everyone trusts Vinayak for advice, and we anyway come to you. So to have a conversation like this with you is a lot easier than, say, anybody else, because you know everything. You know the highs, the lows. You are the first call when shit goes wrong. So it
also
just
in happy times.
helps. Yeah. It just helps. In happier times, you're sitting next to us celebrating, but I think it just helps to have someone that you relate to speak to you about what really matters the most.
And I think there are so many hard days, and when it's hard, it is so hard. It is unimaginably hard. And on those days, stories really help to hear others and how they got out of it. And I feel that content just does not exist on the internet. Although there is so much content, this still does not exist with this deep truth about really hard days. And that's why I think Lifeboat is a fantastic concept.
Oh, lovely. And I want to say one more thing which fills my heart with a lot of pride. So especially coming from I'm not playing the ages card here, but coming from a 42-year-old who's building something very interesting in terms of not his main business. You guys are the youngest guests of this first season in my podcast, and I'm so proud about what you have built and what you're creating. But let's go a couple of steps back. Before we even talk about this, मुझे ये बताओ, did you all ever believe or imagine कि एक टाइम ऐसा आएगा कि आपका प्लेटफॉर्म जो है would perhaps be one of the most successful channels, one of the most successful platforms on YouTube? I've come here, so many times. I've come here and seen your office and your studios evolve. 5 साल पहले कुछ और था, 6 साल पहले कुछ और था, आज कुछ और है. And I see that wall. And I remember when I first came to that wall, I think there was one plaque. And today I'm trying to see that there are no spaces left for the plaques.
Yeah, they're hidden in cabinets. There's no space left.
So, did you all ever imagine? So, the founder mindset that I want to dig a deep in. When you reach a stature, does that play with your mind to say that there is a certain amount of hubris that can come in? Or does it still bring in the context to say that there's gratitude that you are here where it is? Or is it that crazy, ever aspirational, all the time hungry, all the time dissatisfied founders that we all are here? Abhi to we've just scratched the surface. Kuch bhi nahi kiya hai. Take us through that mind space of a founder who's tasted some success and yet wants to find that balance. What is that like?
You want to start?
Yeah. So I think how it works is that if you know the goal and the goal is really large, this seems like success from, the benchmark of success is really high. So this is not close to that at all. And so it's about where is the benchmark and
Who defines the benchmark?
So for me, how the benchmark has evolved over time. When I was in Kullu, the benchmark was very low. If I got 95 marks out of 100 in my exams. That was success.
That was like super success, yeah.
Yeah. And I got a chance to go to Harvard, and I remember being there and having breakfast with somebody who went on to swim for the Olympic team.
Wow.
And at social get-togethers, you would meet people who are not just at Harvard, but they're also running a $20 million revenue business. So your benchmark of success totally changes because of exposure.
Yeah.
And exposure doesn't have to be going and sitting in Harvard. It can be from reading books.
Sahi baat hai.
But exposure changes, benchmark of success changes. So what
Is it because you're saying exposure also changes mindset and therefore perspective, and therefore as your perspective becomes relative to the situation and circumstance, the goalpost keeps shifting? Is that one takeaway that maybe a lot of our audience can consider?
100%. I would attribute. So I have a small story. I am from Kullu.
Take us through that.
My close friend in Kullu, who was always better than me in academics. You know, वो दो जन के साथ शाम को क्रिकेट खेलते हो, है ना?
और हमेशा वो फीलिंग होता है कि यार फोमो है यार, ये हमेशा सारा एक मार्क्स से आगे निकल जाता है.
हमेशा और एक मार्क्स से ना कंसिडरेबली, मैं तो मतलब वो तो मेरे से कंसिडरेबली आगे था, मतलब होता है ना कि आप you're not really competing with them.
Right.
You're competing with like others in the class. He is today selling bread at a kirana store, and I am here.
That's powerful.
And you know, the primary reason, the difference there was my father forced exposure on me.
So don't be the frog in the well.
उन्होंने मुझे ज़बरदस्ती इंग्लिश सिखाई, इंग्लिश में किताबें पढ़ने लग गया. उन्होंने मुझे ज़बरदस्ती बैंगलोर भेज दिया अपने दोस्त के घर पे रहने के लिए. बैंगलोर में तो कुछ और ही चल रहा था.
Of course.
कुल्लू में तो हम 8 बजे सो जाते थे.
Of course.
95 मार्क्स ही सपने देख सकते थे कुल्लू में. And then वहाँ से whatever, more and more exposure keep happening. I attribute exposure as the biggest reason to unlocking someone's potential, and that's why even Josh, the primary thing is solving is exposure. That's the first thing we solved for, or we are in the process of solving for.
So, Supriya, tell me, थोड़ा सा इसको अलग ब्रेक करते तेरे लिए. Now, and I want you to relate two parts and connect two parts to it. In your journey of building Josh, we have seen so many people come on this platform, come on these sets and talk about their journeys, and not necessarily that they were all achievers, but a lot of them who were hustlers and strugglers and came from extremely underprivileged backgrounds, but still made something in their lives, right? From your perspective, you also come from a reasonably privileged background, and you've been very honest to acknowledge that on several occasions, but it is not similar to the concept of living in a small town like Kullu, because you of course stayed in a metro.
Yeah.
But when you try and match these two things together, your mindset of growing up while you were growing up versus when you decided to dwell into this business together, where you every day see a lot of underprivileged achievers trying to build in together, how do you marry the two to say that there is no conundrum? What was your mindset of looking at how things were, and what was your mindset of success, and how did it keep shifting and changing? Take us through a mind space of a girl growing up
In Delhi.
In a reasonably privileged environment, and yet having the heart to solve something so grassroots.
I think, it's one thing that Shobhit keeps saying, right? That the privilege that we have is actually our own responsibility. That what do we do from the stepping stone that we've already got? Like, I didn't have to start from zero. I already had a decent upbringing. I had a good school that I went to. I was fortunate enough to, get a lot of exposure at an early age, whether it was academically or whether it was through extra co-curriculars. I have traveled a lot, so I've seen the world. But how do you use everything that you've already built? How do you use the experiences that you've already had to raise your aspirations and not lower them? So I think one of the things that's been very important in my journey is the role that my father has played, right? He was always this person that didn't give you enough because he wanted you to be able to earn it. So, it was never you're going to Delhi University, it doesn't mean you have pocket money. You have to be able to do an internship so that you can, fend for yourself. Otherwise, you take public transportation because you don't have money to pay for petrol and actually drive a car, right? So I think your upbringing and the values that you are born with and the sense of ownership that you have towards, giving back to your family or towards building something which is of value drives how you use privilege. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, which is why this conversation around privilege, not privilege comes up, right? But the other thing is that the right set of exposure is also extremely important. Like, even though I got the right kind of education, I went to Delhi University, I was doing BCom honors, studying to be a chartered accountant, but that's because the exposure that I got was limited to that. That, you know, if you've done business in school, if you've taken up commerce, then you take the route of either doing a CA or a CFA.
The usual vertical.
Absolutely. You do a desk job. Like, my goal was to make partner at a Big Four. And yesterday, I mean, our audit is going on right now, and we had a partner who was
Big
doing the audit coming here, and he said, "What's the one piece of advice that you have for me and my team?" I said, "Leave your organization. Join a startup. You'll actually build something of
And you learn
value."
more.
Yeah, and you learn more. So I think your aspiration also changes with the interactions that you have with who you are surrounded by. Like, one incident that really hit me in college was that this girl who I studied BCom honors with, one day she got a call from home, and you know, her parents needed financial support, and she was someone who could make an air hostess immediately because she fit all the criteria, and she left that to become an air hostess. And I felt that at that time, if she had got the right kind of advice, she would be living a very, very different life. I still follow her on social media. She's still an air hostess, and there's nothing wrong with that profession.
Of course.
But I know what her aspirations were. I knew that she had a different path that she wanted to take in life, but didn't get the right advice.
So it's a beautiful point. It brings me to a thought, guys, that circumstances determine a lot of situations. So, and I want to outline a thought, and I want you to give some advice from your perspective as founders. A lot of people I've heard constantly say this, and मुझे थोड़ा हंसी आता है जब मैं ये सुनता हूँ. They keep saying, do what you love, and you'll never burn out. Do what you love, and you'll always be successful. Do what you love, and you will reach the moon. Reaching the moon now is, of course, very much doable. We're all very proud of what's happened. But ye bata, and I have a very different perspective. I come from a background which again wasn't privileged. I came from a background which was that middle class, mid-middle class. So mid-middle class is like, I always call it a very semi-aspirational zone. कि आप गरीब तो हो नहीं कि आप खताश हो और अमीर तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं हो. So you're in that ever aspirational zone.
Yeah.
You're always trying to make that hack. You're always trying to get things better. That two-wheeler mindset, trying to move to a four-wheeler mindset, it's great, right? It builds life. But हकीकत एक और चीज़ ये होता है कि doing what you love, I believe, is directly proportionate to your circumstances. Like in the example that you took, maybe she wanted to be a CA, but her circumstances demanded food on the table for herself and her family.
Yeah.
So she had to do what she could do at that point of time. So I personally believe that that entire adage of a lot of our viewers who may hear from various influencers, various people say, yaar, tum jo dil mein hai, what you love, tumhe wahi karna chahiye. I think that's a fallacy. I think the advice in my mind should be that, yaar, it's directly proportionate to your background and your circumstance. If you don't have that ability and that background and the platter, do what you're doing so goddamn well that you excel in it and you become so amazing that you create that cushion and that comfort zone. And that cushion and the comfort zone is monetary, philosophical, spiritual, mental. So you can move out and then concentrate on doing what you love, because then you have created that ability to take care of the family. So for me, if someone had to ask me originally, guys, and not because of the drama that I do in terms of negotiations and the deal tables, but I also used to do a lot of theatre. And if someone had asked me what was something that I would love to do, I would actually be a theatre artist. I had the fortune of looking and seeing work across FTI, Mandi House, Prithvi, similar at that point of time when I was growing up in colleges and doing a lot of drama and street drama. But reality is that you have to earn money, you have to do something. So take this thought and tell us as founders, how did you decide, especially coming from the background that you guys had? The normal course of action would be the usual, like you said here, finish your degree, get a job, go through the ladders, be successful. Maybe, from your perspective, all the more if you said you had an exposure with Harvard, typically the world's an ocean, right? It's an oyster, you can go wherever you want to. How does a person decide that, yaar, ye sab hone ke bawajood, I still want to go into the construct of building something where it might be very difficult, but I am actually leaving that thought process of the easy life and jumping into what I want to do because I love it and I know I'm going to be very successful. How do you marry that circumstance and your passion together and become a founder. What is the take there?
यार अगर मैं देखूं कि like so if somebody is coming from a family background जहाँ पर अगर मैं आज से काम करना शुरू ना करूं और पैसे ना कमाऊं तो आज शाम को मेरे मम्मी के पास खाना खाने के लिए नहीं है.
Correct.
That's one kind of a situation you can be in. And then you have no option. You get the hell up and you do what you got to do
Right.
to put food on the table.
Right.
But let's say that problem is solved, where for most of middle class India, like the backgrounds we came from, that problem is solved. जहाँ पर खाना है, घर पे खाना है.
हताश नहीं हो आप.
Now comes the really tough decisions where you can make here. Firstly, I don't think too many people know what they love. That's one very big issue. Or I don't even know if that's an issue, but many people
Go a
don't know
little
what they
granular on this. Go a little deep on what you mean by this.
Okay, so you took an example of you love doing theatre. That is because you exposed yourself to theatre. You expose yourself to 12 other things. You happen to realize after 12 things you are exposed to that, hey, this is something I'm very naturally inclined towards.
बिल्कुल.
What do you mean you like something? That means your natural inclination is that.
बिल्कुल.
है ना? You found theatre, so you realize मेरी natural inclination है ये. मैं 12 घंटे कर रहा हूँ but काम ही नहीं लग रहा.
Correct. Affinity है.
Vibe to it.
एक vibe है और मजा आ रहा है.
Correct. But how many people know that? And at what age, right? You must be in your
18.
20s.
18, 19.
18, right? So even earlier, late teens. How many people can say that with surety that they have something they actually like to do? Do what you love. So something they actually love to do. How many people can say that? Rare, very few. But let's say that is true. And let's say the issue of putting food on the table does not exist in your family. You have to still mend for your, or earn enough to have your own expenses ताकि मम्मी पापा पे वो भार ना पड़े.
Correct.
But उतने तो थिएटर से कमा सकते हैं. Now the issue happens that
बहुत मुश्किल है बड़ा ठीक है.
बहुत मुश्किल है, right? Maybe the quality of lifestyle खराब होनी पड़ेगी थोड़ी सी.
I mean like it's comparative. My first job I started at $1,500 a month. हाँ मतलब थिएटर होता तो 700-800 रुपए होता शायद.
बिल्कुल. मैं आपको एग्जांपल देता हूँ. मेरे को साइकिलिंग परस्यू करनी थी. मेरे को अपना करियर साइकिलिंग में बनाना था.
As a professional cyclist.
As a professional cyclist, I took that decision. So I used to live in a servant quarter of some. There was a Bangalore में जहाँ हम ट्रेनिंग करते थे, वहाँ पर this government officer had made a house.
को क्वार्टर्स के नीचे साइड में जो देते हैं भाड़े पे.
ये छत पे था.
तो जैसे दिल्ली में मैं बरसाती में शुरू किया था. दिल्ली में आप लोगों का एक बरसाती का कॉन्सेप्ट होता है, which is very funny. Higher you go, the lower is the rent. Because वहाँ पे ना asbestos sheet होता है और गर्मी ज्यादा होता है. But yeah, continue.
Absolutely.
So you took that call.
हाँ, तो मतलब मैं अपना, I took that call and there was no issue with me taking that call, and because I knew.
But you took that call to sacrifice your lifestyle for your passion.
Yeah, because I couldn't afford, like, या तो मैं इतने पैसे कमा रहा होता कि मैं अपनी लाइफस्टाइल अपने हिसाब से जी लूं, या फिर मैं कम कमा रहा हूँ तो अपनी लाइफस्टाइल उस हिसाब से जीनी पड़ेगी अगर मुझे ये काम करना है. वरना मैं वो काम करूँ जहाँ पर पैसे अच्छे मिलते हैं बट मेरे को कुछ शायद दिल से the calling is not there to do that particular other thing which gives you more money, which is fine. And I don't think it's a like when you're so young, it doesn't make really a big deal which one you choose actually. But I'm glad that I chose this, where I pursued cycling, and it taught me so goddamn much.
Go a little deeper. What?
So I was an endurance cyclist. That is long distance cycling. It starts with minimum long distance cycling counts is 200 kilometers approximately. So the longest race I did was 619 kilometers. That basically means you sit on a bike and for 619 kilometers
keep
you
pedaling.
go. Yeah, you can take micro breaks, but if you take long breaks, you lose the race.
Right.
More or less. Yeah, that's a whole different beast when I was 16, 17 when I was doing this. And for a 17-year-old kid to basically go 400 kilometers from Bangalore to Vellore and back.
जुनून चाहिए पागलों वाला.
That's ridiculous. And it builds you up. It builds your character up. And I think that only, so not to go too detailed into any of this, but
so यार ये long format show है भाई. Go deep, go granular. You don't have to skip the details. I want the details because the viewers need the details.
Got it.
And I'm taking you back to zones where hopefully you may not even have thought of reflecting on.
Yeah. And therefore, I need to really articulate my thoughts because
it's very deep यार. एक ऐसा पहलू होगा जिंदगी का, ऐसा phase होगा जिंदगी का जो बहुत साल पहले पीछे छूट गया. And you're going in there. So tell us. I have so many friends who've done so many, sports aspects, and they come and talk about the usual things. It develops character, it develops discipline, it develops long-term sustainability. All of that is there. But isko chhod ke thoda hat ke bata. How did it develop Shobhit to be the Shobhit as an entrepreneur? I want to connect that hook.
So I'll tell you a story, okay? I was doing a 600-kilometer race. And I was maybe 17 at this time. And I had just turned 17 actually. I remember this was in April. April or May maybe.
When do you turn? What's your birthday?
February, end of Feb. So you could say like 25th of Feb is my birthday.
Okay.
So this is maybe late April, early May, something like that. It's hot.
Right.
I'm going from Bangalore to Chennai and back. Bangalore to the border of Chennai, come back to Bangalore. That's the race. And about 300 kilometers in, we have to find the spot to take the U-turn on. And because about 30 people are attempting this race only, because it's 600 goddamn kilometers. I reach so we are at the 300 kilometer mark and we can't find the U-turn because 30 people, so they're spread out everywhere.
Right.
और अंधेरा पूरा रात के मतलब 9, 10, 11 बजे हुए हैं, हम ढूंढ रहे हैं, कुछ मिल नहीं रहा है, and then we take a right turn and we go down. 9 kilometers later, I find out that I'm going the wrong way. I get angry. I'm on the bike. There is a support car with me, and my father is in that car, always there. I took a U-turn. Finally, he said, wrong way. See, imagine it's a race. You're 300 kilometers, 12, 13 hours of riding a bike in. I'm hurting. I'm in pain. My
blisters.
My toes are bleeding. So in cycling, what happens is that your jersey rubs over your nipples and your nipples start bleeding sometimes. I'm in distress. 300 kilometers in, longest race of my life I'm riding. I take a U-turn of that 9 extra kilometers, then I have to ride that 9 kilometers back, 9 kilometers. It feels a lot when you
each kilometer is like a 10 kilometers situation then.
We finally find the spot. I get off my bike and I'm shouting, what the hell are you guys doing? मतलब थोड़ा सा
the angst.
वो इतना सुहाव गालियाँ नहीं दे, मतलब proper गालियाँ दे रहा था मैं. My dad came, slapped me across my face, said, get back on the bike, finish the goddamn race. I got back on the bike. I rode 300 kilometers back, became the youngest person in the world to qualify for the Paris, and learned the life lesson of my life.
It's about the race. Never get off it. Beautiful. Coming back to your thought. Now this is deep, right? Let's understand that mindset shift. To say you could have had the best possible chartered path for yourself. To take a call like this also needs a lot of bravery. I don't want to play the gender card here, but a lot of times people also have that mindset to say, it's always better to not to take the unprecedented, not to take the uncharted path, but go by the tested path, because यहाँ पे तो श्योर शॉट सक्सेस मिलेगा, ढंग का लाइफ हो जाएगा, ढंग का नेक्स्ट लेवल हो जाएगा, शादी हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, फलाना ढिमकाना. Now for you to think of all of that and then say, नहीं यार, this is not my calling. What motivated the founder mindset? How does one know that I am meant to try and build something? I am meant to try and create something, and that is my true calling. What happened with you?
I think Shobhit's conversation has made me I feel this is the first time that even I'm hearing this story with so many details. So it's...
See, that's the purpose of this. That's the lifeboat. It's like I had to take a deep breath and regain my composure to continue.
Yeah, I can feel my heart pumping. But anyway, I think, I don't know. Okay, let me just try and structure my thoughts. I don't know what a founder is. Or, this whole image that we try to create of a founder being a builder, being a superhero, being someone who's completely radical, someone who's taking risks and all of that. I don't know, there are so many stories, you read so many books, each persona makes you believe that, okay, this is the archetype, right? This is who you need to be and this is what you need to kind of follow. And for some people that drives you, right? These are the 5 traits, you feel like you can match those traits to who you are, whether you have the risk-taking ability, whether you're, you can inspire people, whether you are granular, whether you have a big dream, all of that, and then you can classify yourself as a founder. But for me, what drives me is accomplishment. It doesn't matter that today I'm an entrepreneur, tomorrow, or in my role I'm a CEO, tomorrow I might be someone else. But am I accomplishing something in every stage of my life? And am I adding to the world in some way which is bigger than what my comparative would do?
Go a little deeper. Define accomplishment for Supriya. What is your definition of accomplishment?
I don't have a definition, but I think it's different, right? Each phase you set some goals, and then those goals become like your key driver. So for example, like if we break down the journey of Josh Talks, nobody wanted to advertise on our platform. Okay, nobody knew why they should partner with an organization like Josh. We were like these two hep kids out of college and like, you know, trying to do something. People were comparing us to TED, saying, oh, TED of India ban gaya and all of that. But at the end of the day, like nobody was willing to back it monetarily. At that stage, my accomplishment was defined by that the biggest companies in the world will associate with Josh, and that's it. And that became a parameter. Fortunately, over the last couple of years, we've had partners like Google, Facebook, Amazon. Everyone works with Josh today. So, and they back us. The largest foundations in the world also back Josh. So that was one stage of accomplishment, that if you think we can't monetize, we will monetize. And we will show you that you can do it in the most seamless way, in the most authentic way, and you don't have to lose your lose, you know, like your brand.
Your ethos.
Yeah, your ethos.
But we'll go to Josh a little later.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Supriya now. So I want to understand the sense of Supriya's mindset to know when she was ready to become a founder. What for our viewers, the clearance of the fog to say, yaar, it's a binary call. Ye karna hai ya ye karna hai. What made Supriya take that binary call? I want to get a little deeper on that.
It was when the reality became so visual that if I was to become a CA, who would I be? And that persona didn't appeal to me. You know, that imagery of being on a desk, what my day would look like, what my attribution to the work would be, how the world would see me, what kind of value will I add, who would I be working for, what change would I have created. When that became a lot more real, when Shobhit and I started talking, and it just felt like that's not the best outcome of my life. You know, that's not the DNA that I have. That's not the potential, like the best use of my potential, right? And I think at that phase, it became very clear who I don't want to be. And then there was a process of elimination in a way. Ki, okay, who do I see myself as? Like, and I think that's when a lot of like the role of role models kicked in, right? What I was consuming on the internet, who I was watching, what were some of the traits and conversations that really appealed to me. And then that became like a set of characteristics that I wanted to define myself as, or the role that I wanted to play. And then it, like, I don't know if I'm born to be a founder. It just happened. And now that I'm here, I have to play that role. And tomorrow it may be a different role.
But I have some interesting thoughts on that I can connect with her on. You know, at Josh, we don't value the word founder at all. Inside, my role is of a sanchalak, operator. The day I stop operating, I lose that role. And you know, the reason is that the word founder, I think, is what it portrays today is, I think, a little bit of a fake image also.
Little? Or maybe over glamorized at several contexts.
At several contexts. I'll tell you how that transition happened.
Yeah.
I deeply cared about changing something in the world. Which was that लोगों में काबिलियत है यार, कोई कुछ कर क्यों नहीं रहा, दुनिया ये कैसे चलती है? If you're born to a not relatively well-to-do exposed family, you do nothing with your life. That essentially means 90% of the country is doing nothing with their life. They have so much potential in them, yet we are not able. The world functions in a way कि हम potential बाहर नहीं निकाल पा रहे हैं. ये करना था मुझे. this is what I wanted to solve for. What I'd fallen in love with, the idea, this is the world, like what's a wrong that you want to right? This is the wrong I wanted to right. And starting Josh Talks was never the goal. The goal was to find somebody who's solving this. And I did try to do that. But I just found nobody who was doing it in this manner. And that led to us having to start Josh.
So I want to take this a little more granular for the purpose of our viewers. What in a founder's mindset clicks to understand who can be a co-founder? Because a lot of people, there are two schools of thoughts guys आज के डेट पे जो काफ़ी लोग बात करते हैं कि भाई सोलो फाउंडर बहुत कुछ कर सकता है, को-फाउंडर की ज़रूरत क्यों है? दूसरा है कि यार बिना को-फाउंडर आप कुछ भी नहीं कर सकते बिकॉज ये जगदोजहद है, रास्ता जो है बहुत अकेलेपन का है, टू मच ऑफ लोनली जर्नी, वी क्राई एवरी डे, वी नीड अ शोल्डर. सो देयर आर टू स्कूल्स ऑफ थॉट्स. Again, when it comes to, and my conversation is always going to be about a lot of takeaways for our viewers, right? How did you guys meet? Number one. Number two, how does one know that this is the person I want to go across and partner with to build something which will define a large portion of my life, a large portion of my identity? How does that mindset happen?
I think, so how we met, I'll start off with that. We met in 2013 when we were in college through one of our mutual friends at his birthday party. And this was my school friend. He was Shobhit's college friend.
You can mention his name, we'll show him in the picture.
Keshav.
Yeah.
Everyone knows Keshav. Everyone knows who knows us knows Keshav.
So now the viewers will also know.
Yeah. Yes.
Hi, Keshav.
But that's how we sort of met, and I think, you know, like Delhi parties or like birthdays here can be very like random, right? Like you're just having fun.
I'm
you don't
from
know.
Mumbai. You
but
can define random for me.
Mumbai is also similar in that approach. Like there's no agenda. You're just
The
there. You're
हमारा
having
बड़ा
fun.
party होता है.
ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. But there are no conversations which are real. And I feel like Shobhit was an outsider to this party in a way, because it was like all of our school friends and he was the only one who was out of the group. And I think when we spoke for the first time, we realized that there is a real conversation to be had, fun. There is someone who's talking about his dreams, about his goals, about his aspirations. He had just moved to Delhi for college, so about the background and the shift and everything. And I think that's like in that moment, all you know that, you know, like, okay, you've already like made up your mind, okay, this is someone that I want to work with, this is someone that I want to associate with, this is someone who I want to talk to. So I think that was like a place of connect where we both had these, we weren't talking about what everyone else was talking about. We were talking about what our life was, what our place in this world was, how much meaning we had to create, and that connected us because that was unusual. Very few times will you come across a conversation where you feel that someone is talking something out of the ordinary, where they have that trait where they want to build something, do something meaningful, and it's not just general time pass that's happening. So that was, I think, an instant connect. The second thing is that how do you build that relationship over time, and how do you know that this is the right person for you to work with or continue to have a thing with? I think it's like you have to have 100% trust, almost like blind faith, once you know that, okay, this is the person that you work with, and you need to have territories associated with complementary skills so that you know who is the final decision maker for a particular thing, to avoid conflict coming in again and again, right? So one aspect of trust, we literally, and you know this, you were a part of that conversation, we didn't go ahead with a deal, like we didn't go ahead with a term sheet because they wanted us to sign a co-founder agreement before. And for us, it made no sense to sign a co-founder agreement, because if you can't have that level of trust or ownership, or like, you know, like in that relationship that you have, then you're anyway not going to build something that's worthwhile. So I think trust defines everything, and if you find someone who you can trust, who has complementary skill sets, who also has the ability to dream, who's visualizing what you are visualizing, who's seeing the world at, you know, in a similar lens, then that person becomes your co-founder. And I am of the opinion that you should have one, because I have a lot of friends who are doing this journey alone, and I try to play that role of being there for them, and it's very, very tiring.
Yeah.
It's very tough.
It's very tough. I know several of them who
Yeah.
talk to me and talk about all the good Samaritan roles that you play.
But
Yeah.
But tell me from your perspective.
I'll still add to adding to what Supriya said, that I think this finding people you work really well with and who act as your shoulder to lean on are not just co-founders.
Yeah.
True.
And that's why at Josh we are not building a co-founder driven company at all.
Are they a part of your lifeboat then?
Yeah.
100%.
100%. Yeah.
There are
That's where the
people
whole concept
beyond-
comes in.
And that's why I have no value for the word co-founder or founder. Absolutely none. I have value for the contribution that people make in various different roles. And a lot of times the unsaid KRA of those roles is we are shoulder to each other to lean on.
True.
And we are building Josh to become a company that is run by a
A set of individuals.
C-level executive, whatever.
Set of
The terminology
individuals.
can be different. But we've very consciously built it like that. For example, there are multiple people in Josh that have more authority than I have.
I know that. I have
In
structured
hiring,
quite a few
firing.
of it for you.
Absolutely.
In
Absolutely.
fact, a lot of things where you don't even use the super veto that you guys could. But I want to take one more thought here. And I'll share something personal, which I have not spoken about in any of the episodes earlier. See, and I will talk about it in terms of the founder and the entrepreneur journey, because while I appreciate your philosophy, the world still understands the concept of leaders who are building the company as founders and co-founders. But let's take the word of entrepreneurs to make it more simple. It's a journey of peaks and valleys, right? Valley is also, in my definition, sometimes some of the biggest blessings that can happen. And I'll tell you why. So I'll give an example of what had happened in my life. So when I started my career in Bombay, when I shifted from Delhi, but the price points in the two cities were very different, right? And I started in a job which was about 6,000 rupees per month, 6,750 after tax. And that amount for an office in South Bombay where you have to work, you land up in an equivalent of a chawl. Because South Bombay doesn't have chawls, right? So you land up so I started my career in Bombay in a dormitory. A dormitory which was maybe the size of the studio, slightly maybe larger. And we were 24 of us who used to lie on the floor because gaddas were on the floor and we used to sleep there. And we had one broken Indian loo, and you had to use that. That was the life that you started with. Now I'll go to a situation of one of the lowest moments. And nowadays people talk a lot, and it's become quite an issue about talking about working for 18 hours out odd and etc. And there's a lot of reaction that comes in our space. And the generation that I'm talking about good about 20 years ago. I used to work 18, 19 hours a day. It was the norm. It was expected from you to do that, right?
I don't think it's in past tense. I think you still work 18, 19.
Now I'm a founder. Now I work 24 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I remember once I worked and I left the office. It was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And I missed eating. Waqt nahi mila tha. And by the time I came that time everything had shut. And I was very hungry. And I was like, now what to do? Now there was this one guy in the dormitory. वो ना हर शाम को सब्जी लेके आता था अपना. And he would make a salad. खीरा टमाटर वो सब काट के he would have that, and whatever रोटी का डब्बा लाता था वो डब्बा खाता था. And I knew that he would always have 1-2 spare खीरा or some gajar under his gadda ka side. So I decided that boss, I will go across and at least take that खीरा and gajar and heave it. In the morning I'll replace it क्योंकि उसका वो कोटा है वो miss नहीं होना चाहिए. And I thought of taking it out. And at that point of time, suddenly he woke up and he held my hand and said, "Sala, tu chor hai." And I got accused for being a chore of trying to steal a cucumber and carrot to fill my stomach so that I could replace it. And that is when reality hit me to say that, boss, isse battar kya ho sakta hai? Ki boss, I am working 18 hours a day. I am living in a dormitory with on the floor with house rats going next to me. I am trying to steal a cucumber and a carrot from a fellow resident, and I have now got accused for being a food thief. So there were two things that could have happened. One, it could have told me, boss, my life is absolute bullshit. What am I doing? Let's quit, let's go ahead. Or it could have been, boss, so far and no more. Screw it. I took the latter approach and said, boss, now I have to go and break the barrier and enter a bulge bracket. And that's when I started applying, and I literally broke down the door to get into a bulge bracket. I got lucky that I got taken, and then life took a very different construct. What I'm trying to say is that the lowest of the lows, which is the valley, can break you or make you. It's about the mindset again. For both of you, together as entrepreneurs and founders of a company, which was that lowest moment when you felt that this is not worth it? And how did you resurrect yourself? Because the power of resurrection is the biggest superpower that a founder can have. And for the audience and the viewers, I want to highlight a bit about no matter how bad things are, the bottom is the best blessing, because once you've reached the barrel bottom, the only way is up. So for both of you, and it might be different points, it might be different moments, but which was that lowest bottom of the barrel moment, and how did you resurrect?
It was very interesting. I was having a conversation with somebody in the morning today, and it just came out in the conversation that, my what I believe to be my strongest, like at what stage am I the strongest in? It's when it's at the goddamn lowest. Because I don't know why, but somehow my brain at the goddamn lowest is super positive. And I have this deep conviction that will make it work. So lots of lows happen. The lowest of lows for me was when we ran out of money and we couldn't make, we were a day away from making payroll, and we had to mortgage our parents' homes to make payroll for the next month. And that was about 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. So the conversation with mom to mortgage her only home, or one home, was a crazy one.
For you, same?
Yeah, I think it was that period where you were like, you didn't know what to do, right? Because to have this conversation with your parents, and to, especially when they've supported you, like when what we do is not the norm. It's unconventional anyway. Like my parents in the beginning were very like, why are you giving up a traditional career to do something like this? So to have that conversation with your father where you're saying that you don't have money anymore and the option is to shut down, but you need that one sort of, reinstatement of faith to say that, okay, no, like even if we do take it, here is a payback period, this is how it's going to happen. I think that was the lowest. And I think that also defined a moment for us where we said that we can never be in this situation again. No matter what happens, like we can never hit rock bottom like this again. And what can we do?
So so there are two parts, right? One is, of course, in this case, the lifeboat of parents coming in and agreeing to mortgage something that they created with their blood, sweat and tears for the dreams of their children.
And the only thing they created, right? That was their that's what they had.
But how do you resurrect to what you said, right? That it should never happen again. How does the resurrection happen? How do you bring that strength in to say कि अब यहाँ से ना ऊपर ही जाना है?
Like I'll give, taking the same example, okay? And there are various lows. So this is a different one. Like the conversation I was just speaking about, where I spoke that, the conversation in the room, we are facing a major low and we're trying to get out of it. The conversation in the room was purely about like getting out of it. It was positive. It's like a war zone atmosphere inside the room. And there is no question of survival. Of course, we are going to survive. There's no doubt about it. I think that is purely coming from how important it is to solve this problem. It's not actually coming from a personal area. Ki matlab, it's coming from what we are doing is so goddamn important to do that we already knew that the chance of success is very, very low. Still, we have to do it. Like even if the odds of failure are high, you still attempt some things, right? So we already know that these lows are going to come. But the thing is so important to get done. Like we cannot leave India the way it is. Things have to change. And just knowing this and attempting Josh Talks and what we're trying to do at Josh is, I already know 12 more lows are going to come in the next 12 months or in the next 24 months. And that's why everybody is already on page. Ki, boss, the lows are going to come. But this is so goddamn important to get done. It's like Chandrayaan, right? It's like so goddamn important that even if third one had failed, there would be a fourth. There's no question that there would be a fourth one.
Absolutely. So, I want to connect two things now, right? The essence in what you spoke about, one of the core aspects to look into your co-founder is the ability to trust blindly. A lot of times, what happens is, vision sets out at a path and there might be requirements of modification, pivot, metamorphosis. And I'm using ये अलग-अलग शब्द क्योंकि यार हर चीज़ का ना एक अलग thought process होता है, कुछ positive होता है, कुछ negative होता है, कुछ need of the hour होता है. So not necessarily that every pivot is negative, not necessarily every metamorphosis is positive. A lot of it is circumstantial. But बहुत बार ये होता है कि किसी का विजन कुछ होता है, किसी दूसरे का विजन शायद वो अलाइन नहीं होता है या थोड़ा सा कहीं ना कहीं डिफरेंशिएशन होता है. But then there is a requirement to come to that conclusion and one party taking the trust call on another. So take us a bit through the journey of Josh. Like I have been fortunate to know you guys from day one of your journey and fortunate for also being able to advise you all from day one.
Yeah, I was going to say not just know, like I feel like we built so much of this together.
A lot of it, and I'm still so nice and so humble to say I am fortunate. They have not said that they are fortunate to have me on the side of the advisory role, but we'll talk about that in a separate context. But I'm just kidding. Coming back to the point, right? I've seen your journey evolve. Like you very beautifully said, a lot of people said, "Hey, India का TED बन गया, platform बन गया, लोग बात कर रहे थे." Lot of times when we started the beginning journey, we were like, हाँ यार लोग आके बात कर रहे हैं, अपना कहानी बना रहे थे, storytelling. From there, it moved to much powerful an engine. From there, it suddenly became an ecosystem. It literally became a situation where you could do so much with the platform. It could go across and factor in, I saw the journey of people learning from here, upskilling from here. Today, it's moved to various other things, and I know the future, how you're building things out. Take us a bit through the journey of the evolution and the changes of Josh and situations where two founders could have perhaps had a different vision, but still they took a call on each other and a trust on each other and how that played out into the business.
So we are super aligned on the long-term goal. I think that is super critical. If you're not aligned on the long-term goal, every decision is like there is no compass and therefore you'll fight on every decision.
So the North Star is something which both of you believe completely in.
Absolutely. When we started, we said this is a 30-year journey. Either we are going into this just to make money and then let's talk relatively shorter term and let's not talk like 3-4 decades out. But we went into this because we have to change something in India. Because I believe there is a better way to go about nurturing human potential. And so first we aligned on that. The real goal here is to unlock human potential, is to make sure that people, doesn't matter which house they are born into, what their situation is, they should get the opportunity to go out there and do well in life. We aligned on that. Then we aligned to some principles to how to go about this. Karna kaise hai ye kind of a conversation, how to. Now, if you align on that, then essentially we are saying that the questions जहाँ पे आ भी रहे हैं, वो basically ये है कि सुप्रिया के हिसाब से कोई ऐसे होना चाहिए, कुछ शोभित के हिसाब से ऐसे होना चाहिए. Now, we can fight it out, but we know that we are all aligned on that long-term goal. Now, it may be that my way is wrong. Therefore, I'm very willing to say it's not so much about trust also. It's about यार बिल्कुल हो सकता है वो भी तरीका, because I know the destination is the same. So I'm not questioning that Supriya is trying to go to a different destination only, because that we are super aligned on. The path she's saying is different, and maybe that's the right path. That's the path of least resistance. So let's take that path. So on the short-term questions, there are a lot of debates, a lot of fights. But on the long-term ones, I don't think ever.
What's your perspective of the trust call? And take us through the journey now. A little bit at your end to talk about the Josh that I saw in 13 to the Josh that I'm seeing in 23. What's the journey been like? What are the aspects of evolution?
Yeah, I think, I like the word evolution and not pivot, because often people say, oh, you've, pivoted so much. You were like doing these events, and then you did like content and media, then you started YouTube, and then now you're into learning. But I think it's always been like how we look at Josh and the role that Josh will play in a person's life has been set from day one. Like the vision has been very clear that if you want to do well in your life and you are from a tier 2, tier 3, 4 city, you don't have the right kind of exposure, Josh is the only platform that will help you do well in your career. Now today it plays the role of a role model and is giving you inspiration. Slowly over a period of time, it also started teaching you English, which was the biggest barrier that you felt at that time. Tomorrow it will also help you land a job. But if you are coming from a background where you don't have that elder brother or elder sister to hold your hand and take you through and, sort of sail you on your boat towards the finishing line, Josh will come in and help do that. And that's been very, very clear. And I think the other thing is that, like Shobhit has been saying, it's not just about the two of us, right? It's about how do you trust the people who are making the core decisions that are actually moving you forward. And how do you continuously realign and reinforce what the longer vision is, and have people who believe in the long term. That is extremely difficult also, to get others to believe in a long term aspect. So I think if you listen to the fights that we have and the conversations that we have, which are arguments, they're so trivial because they're about today. It's about one small thing where one person is feeling more passionately,
It's about that day's battle.
Yeah, and it's an ops related battle, or it's a people related battle. It's never are we doing the right thing or not for the company battle. It's never let's change paths and we are not on the same track. Those are conversations that just don't happen because we know that our personal goals are aligned towards the larger goal for all of us who work at Josh. And over a period of time, that has just strengthened. But also there is like this high degree of ownership that here is a larger goal. And today, maybe you're involved in a process which is something leading up to a larger goal, but you want to do something entirely different, which is also focused on the larger goal. Do it. There's that freedom and there's that flexibility to say that, like I care a lot about gender. You know this. Like we've had so many conversations, right? And I feel that we need to be in a place where we do something exclusively for women. It will be at Josh. So I think that freedom, that flexibility, knowing that, okay, we have to solve these problems, and today anyone can pick up a problem and decide to solve it, and all of us will have each other's backs. I think that's super important.
And take us through the evolution of the business model. What has happened and where are you now? Because I've seen so much of power that has been unleashed in especially the last 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we've also been blessed to have some fantastic partners in the cap table in the last 5 years. So take us through a bit to the business, so people also understand what Josh is all about.
So, of course, everyone recognizes Josh Talks. That's what we're known for, right? This platform where you have speakers who come and share their stories about how they went from point A to point B. What people don't know is
you pushed me also to speak on my story.
You've given a talk.
I remember.
What people don't know is that it gets 270 million views every single month across platforms. That's the power of Josh. It's in every household in the country. It is a recognized brand that people are watching. It's a dinner table conversation. If you go in a metro and you're wearing a Josh Talks t-shirt or a hoodie, you are going to be mobbed and asked why. Like, are you a speaker? Are you working there? All of that. And that is the distribution that we've built over time. And that's the distribution that has continued to remain authentic, unsponsored, unfiltered, and just reinstating the core beliefs of what we propagate as a platform. That's the distribution that is now being used to also serve the product lines that we are working on. For example, from the viewers of Josh, we got an insight that the biggest problem that they face today is not being able to speak in English fluently or confidently. it's not only about employment. People see, English as an employment
Yeah, it's a
problem.
persona element.
It's an inferiority complex that you
Absolutely.
have because you don't know the language. We couldn't find another destination which we could lead them to, which actually taught English well. So we decided to set and solve it. So that's one of our offerings. Another thing which we are working to solve right now is the right kind of advice when you are making a decision on, say, coaching. A lot of money gets spent on coaching every single year, right? Like, it's the largest in education. We all know of the stories.
I have been blessed to advise several of them.
Yeah. But how do you decide which one is good, which
True.
teacher is good, where to spend your money? And that's when Josh's role as an elder brother comes in, right? Like, we show you what institute is best fit for your learning aspirations. Where are you going to get seamlessly integrated? So that's sort of how the business model has also evolved over time, from being a media platform where you have partners who are, sponsoring content, to then being a direct to consumer app where people can pay 500 to 1000 rupees to learn English, to now actually counseling users and getting them to choose the right educational platform for them.
And Vinayak, I'll tell you like how we think about this, right? It looks like Josh has evolved, but this is always what's going to happen. Now, over the next 10 years also, Josh is going to evolve. But
Yeah.
today,
To the outside
we know
world.
exactly what's going to happen. More or less. 1921.
Because vision is, आप लोगों का vision है which is getting curated to that.
Yeah.
For the external world, it will always be an evolution.
Absolutely.
Keep rolling. Let them think. Keep rolling. Now, another very important part, and I'm going to say something very personal, which I don't even know whether you're aware of it, because there's a conversation, Supriya and I had once, and it hasn't gone out of my mind, right? But also what the connect that I'm trying to bring in, as founders, as entrepreneurs, we are eternally optimistic. और कोई option ही नहीं है हमारे पास. We have to always stay positive. We have to always find situations to hustle, to structure, to get somewhere. Because our option nahi hai, mindset otherwise very easy. It's very easy to plummet down, right? Because there's so many distractions of different types of crabs trying to pull us down. One day I got a call from Supriya. And this was a situation where, Supriya, you were going through a medical exigency. And I got a call, Shobhit. And it moved me, right? And it stayed with me forever.
Oh my God, this is that call. This is the Kullu call.
So
When the report was,
I got a call. And again, I get a call from you guys when there are a lot of things that really matter. It comes to me because of various reasons. And I got a call to say that if I have to assign, and I want to speak it simple language, forget the legalese.
Yeah, don't make me cry. This is really embarrassing.
If I have to ensure that my shares go to Shobhit, if I don't live tomorrow, how can you make it seamlessly happen across the structures? And in my mind at that point I was like, what nonsense are you talking? I don't even know why you're talking this rubbish. And she's like, I'm calling you from the hospital, there's a reason why I'm talking. And then she told me why she's thinking through this and what had happened that time. And that night, I couldn't sleep. I have not told her this also. That night, I couldn't sleep because for me, there are two things. One, obviously, she has to stay perfect because I love her and I love you as well. But the second was that mindset of the person to say that she does not know what's going to happen tomorrow, but today, she wants to ensure that whatever little she has built is in the house that it deserves, which is her co-founder. And I've never told you this, I'm saying this on this platform today. What it brought out was the equation of optimism to continue the business and the business continuity, even if we as founders don't survive. That's all of us are trying to build that, right? 100 years later, 100 is too much, but if you're not around, will what we create still stay? When you factor these, and a lot again, this is getting a little emotional, but the idea is about audience and viewers to understand what builds that trust in founders. She mentioned a very deep word, which a lot of people may say is frivolous. Blind trust kya hota hai? What is blind trust? It's bullshit. But she actually lived up to that and expressed what blind trust is to me that day. And I actually drew the paperwork up, man.
Yeah, it was signed.
And that paperwork was signed, right, overnight. And I was literally, I was feeling like shit when I was getting that done. But I was like, yaar, ye mujhe karna padega because it is the need of the hour and it's for people I love. But tell me what blind trust is about for the sake of our viewers. How does one develop that blind trust? How does one take away selfishness away and say, yaar, mujhe to mere liye sochna hai, mere logo ke liye sochna hai. How does one bring business continuity over self? What is the founder mindset there?
I don't know if we have this concept in India anymore, but like in the US, you know, you see it a lot in like movie shows and you hear stories where when a child is born, you have the concept of a godmother or a godfather, right? And they are supposed to take care of your child if you're not there.
Yeah.
It's almost like this responsibility that you're passing on to say that the most valuable thing in the world to me will be yours and you are someone I trust you with. If you were to apply that to what you've created, I think when you're going through a situation like the one that I went through where, you know, everything was just pacing, where I didn't know what the next day was going to look like, it's about who should be protected to carry forward this dream, right? Who's going to believe in this more than anyone else in the world, and who's actually going to do justice to it, who's going to ensure that it reaches fruition and it's not something that just passes you by because you're no longer there. And when you think like that, then there is no option but to think of the person you're building this with, right? And that's where the concept of trust comes in. And at that time, you're not thinking about securing wealth for your family or like, you know, ki baaki sab kuch kaise karna hai. So at that stage, you're only thinking about like the moral responsibility that you have, right? Which is towards your dream, towards a legacy that you want to build, towards something that stays beyond you. And who do you trust with that? And then that decision becomes easy. And, you know, like although it was a little bit of an emotional drama, but it wasn't even a thought. It was almost like this needs to get done because someone on the other end should not be suffering because I've left this undone.
यार तू जो कह रही है ना सुनने में it's very easy. To say कि the decision becomes easy. Harsh fact पे आते हैं. Harsh fact is it also is something which has an economic value. Let's be very honest, right? A lot of people will not have the clarity of thought of what you outlined. You may say, yes, the venture is a child. You may say the co-founder is the godfather. He or she will take care of the child perfectly. But a lot of people will think to say, अरे यार ये तो shares है company के. इसका तो एक value है. एक tangible value है. वो value का बिना सोच के, वो methodology का बिना सोच के, the fact that that attributes money, to take out the mindset तो यार money तो कुछ नहीं है, it's about long term. How easy is it to actually separate a mindset? Is it the situation that dealt with it and made it in that context? Or is it the maturity of a founder to say that when situations of adversity, my co-founder will also take care of economic rights of my kin? What does the mind think like in situations like this? And only you can talk about it because you went through that.
The reason that I use the word trust is, right, that you can trust that the decision that you take, the person who you're handing the responsibility over to will do right by you. Will do right by the company, will do right by the legacy of the company, the organization, but will also do right by what you have created. So it's a given that economic value will be taken care of.
I wish it was that easy.
No, but I also think that it depends on why you started. People who start for only economic value, they have tougher decisions to make. I think for us, it's a very easy decision because you didn't start for economic value. You started to create something that changes the world forever, that doesn't exist because you exist, and is going to be something that continues beyond you. And at that stage, you can't be so narrow-minded to think that this commercial success will not be attributed to my next of kin or my family. You have to just think of like, what are you going to be remembered for?
Let's talk to you now about this. When a founder's on the receiving end of this, कि तुम्हें पता नहीं कल क्या हो सकता है तुम्हारे को-फाउंडर के साथ. तो you're already in that mental jagdojahad. You're mentally in a zone where you don't want to be. But you also have this responsibility coming in, because when I shared the document, I shared it with both of you. Obviously, after there was conversation, a lot of things. So two things hit you, right? The reality of a possibility which could be so heartbreaking, and a situation of seeing trust at a level which is, at times I say, even inhuman level of trust, because it's not necessary that everyone thinks like that. Very few people, and trust me, I've seen the world in a very different frame, because my job requires me to see different types of or different shades of world. And this was one of the closest to my heart, and it has stayed in my memory. It's been quite some time for now, but there's a reason, right? Because for me, then I knew that someone who I love as one of my youngest, brightest, slightly more favorite type, I don't want to use the word client because I don't have that relationship with you guys, but you know, the little bit of that elder brother vibe that comes in. Of course, I'm not playing the ageist card again, but you feel that, right? And you feel that as a person. I felt that as a third person, as an advisor. How does a founder in the receiving mind of that deal with it? And again, the takeaway that I want to have for our viewers is that when a founder has two situations being faced, a situation of personal adversity which is impacting the co-founder and therefore to deal with that, and the situations of future of taking that continuity of the business and taking it to the next level. How does the receiving founder deal with that? What is mental strength all about? What were you feeling?
So I remember the day as if it was yesterday. So around 12 o'clock in the afternoon, we got Supriya's reports. They were not good. And because we are in Himachal, we wanted to get another opinion of that report. It was a blood test.
Yeah.
And there was no other place in that town to get the blood test, so we drove a couple of hours to another town. Maybe like 2-3 hours drive to the other town. So we've now had the emotion of receiving the report, the decision to get another report, and the 3 hour of turmoil to think about the possibilities of tomorrow. And I think so Supriya's reaction was different, my reaction was different. My reaction was, there are problems, then you solve them. And we were looking for solutions, and the logical thing to do was to get this other test, and this test is of course wrong, and the next test is going to be fine. And that's it. For me, it was like that, and there was nothing more to it. There's nothing's going to happen here. This test is wrong. That was my reality. So we reached this place and we got this other test, and it was going to be 4 hours or whatever by the time we received the report. And this happened during those 4 hours when I think I did not know that she's having this call with you.
Yeah.
I came to know after the fact. When after your call, she spoke to me. And firstly, this was like, God damn. Okay. You know, of course, this was a very emotional moment when she brought this up. Yeah. But then very soon we just changed topics, and the conversation was purely about getting Supriya back in order. For me, there was never any risk, nothing ever happened, and my mind has a way of just blocking out all negative shit. Eventually the report came and we knew that there is danger, but it's a lot lesser than what we expected. We immediately went to Delhi, got what needed to be done to ensure that Supriya stays with us for a very, very long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, when you look at it from the perspective of the journey that you both had, and of course I played my own role in terms of that. It's the takeaway again is eternal optimism. Let's switch this now to something a little lighter.
Yeah. Much required.
Yeah. So one of the larger challenges is about finding that level of L1, L2, L3, identifying the next leaders, identifying who's going to be the right fitment. So one aspect that I want to deal with, again, this plays two roles in two thoughts. There will be viewers who are going to be in that role of joining as an L1 or L2 somewhere. There will also be viewers who are in the role of hiring that L1 or L2 somewhere. So as founders, when you hire the team, when you build that team, what are the aspects that matter the most to you? एक दो absolute must-haves and एक दो absolute red flags कि भाई ये DNA में बैठता है, ये DNA में नहीं बैठता है. How do you guys think about your hires? How have you built that team? How have the Devs and the Harshes and X's and the Y's been built up to create Josh?
So I believe that we run Josh very differently from what a traditional startup, how a traditional startup is run.
How? Tell me how.
So we don't have a founder culture. What I mean by that, I'll clarify. So Supriya is CEO and three of us more, but since we are taking, since I took the earlier example of speaking in the morning to Harsh and Dev, I'll continue with that example. Harsh, Dev and Supriya. Harsh, Dev and I report to Supriya, where L1 essentially therefore is the four of us.
As vertical heads.
Sometimes we are solving the same problems or like whatever is the key new problem to solve somewhere.
So you're the super boss.
Yeah, absolutely. That we very clearly run it like that. And the amount of authority.
That's why I'm sitting like this.
Of course.
And it can change quarter to quarter, not the structure, but the amount of authority that, for example, right now Harsh or Dev have is a lot more than what I have because they're running really large functions and really large teams and I'm not. So
and it's across the organization, right? Like he's using the example of Harsh and Dev, but you've met Shinab, you've met Parul,
I've met a
Mitul.
whole bunch of them.
Yeah,
See,
they
I
all
want-
lead
I want to-
different
I
verticals.
want to look at it slightly differently. है ना? I think what you're bringing in to a great extent is the organizational culture of Josh. And it's very bespoke, very unique.
Yeah.
थोड़ा सा इसको हम broad base करेंगे. Because end of the day, from a founder perspective, it is the both of you first. I want to bring
He's
in
going to keep saying it
Vinayak,
because
actually it's not.
yeah.
Actually it is not. I am extremely opinionated about this in the organization and I have not allowed it to be. We cannot be. So
Okay.
I am very inspired. So I grew up reading books like Stories of GE or very different kind of companies. I actually never wanted to become a founder. I was not interested in the startup culture at all. But I was very interested in, for example, my mom is a Radha Swami. In the Radha Swami organization structure or the General Electric organization structure. Or if I can take the example of a few others, I would even include Patanjali or RSS or other organizations and their organization structures. So in our mind, the world may perceive us as a startup today, but we are not building like that. We are building very, very differently, where essentially the word founder and our jobs don't matter are nothing to do with the founder, the word. We all have our KRA and we do that.
Perfect.
And
इसको मैं थोड़ा अलग करूँगा. This is also a result of evolution. This is a result of where Josh is today. Take it back 10 years. Take it back to the time when you started out.
yeah,
Evolution of this was maybe a vision, but it would have been a macro vision. ये micros में जो तू आ रहा है ना, ये आज है as a matter of your size, आज है as a matter of your cohort, and therefore you know that now the micros can align to the macro. लेकिन जब कोई शुरू कर रहा है, because again as I said, a lot of our viewers are the ones who are going to start.
yeah,
Yeah.
A lot of our viewers are the ones who are going to join.
yeah.
So जब you rewind your mind frame now, take yourself 7-8 years back when you were building the team. Because there was a time when you hired a Dev, you hired a Shinab, you hired a Harsh, you hired XYZ.
Yeah.
What was the mindset of hiring that right people? What I want to take out from you all for the benefit of our viewers, what do the entrepreneurs or the starters of the organization think of as key qualities when it comes to hiring and key qualities as to when not to hire? So therefore the red flags and the green flags. Let's talk a bit about that, because today I appreciate what you're doing, but this would not have been the situation 7 years earlier. And we have to look at the whole piece, right? So tell me the whole piece story.
So, we spoke of culture in the middle, right? I think culture also defines the way that you hire and the type of people that you bring on, because it becomes the only parameter to decide whether someone actually comes to Josh or, doesn't come. We are not an organization where we, advocate that you need to be the most skilled person for the role, because none of us are skilled in what we are doing today. We don't have a background in formal education in what we are creating here, right? And so it's become this place of almost rebellion, that people who rebel, people who take charge, people who take high degree of ownership, people who show responsibility in times when others don't, are the people who succeed at Josh. There is no hierarchy. It's a completely flat culture. So if you're doing something right, you're going to be spotted immediately, because you don't have to take that approval from a senior to post something, to be recognized, whatever, right? So as a result of that, I think hiring, it's almost become like we know the DNA to survive at Josh and we know the DNA to thrive at Josh. And that has become the parameter for getting the right kind of people on board. So it's structured in a way where there is, of course, weightage given to, like what you've studied, where you come from, what have you done over there, what was your achievement like in your past life, what roles have you played, etc. But a lot of it is culture orientation. And sometimes it happens before we hire, but we also have like unlimited belief in people. So I think if there is someone who's just showing that vigor in an interview, who's just showing that they've not got an opportunity before, but here they're going to show us that that opportunity is going to be worthwhile, we take that risk and we ensure that we spend a lot of time on culture immersion. Because like the fundamental belief of the platform is that anybody can do anything, right? So how are we not propagating that within the organization? Harsh leads tech today is not an engineer, and nobody can question him on that. Nobody has he knows more than anyone else who's had a formal degree of education would be able to say, right? Varun and Mitul in partnerships have never held monetization roles before. They've studied I don't even know what they've studied, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you come from, what you've done. If you just have that, if you're inspired to be working in an organization like Josh, you have the same goal or alignment from a mission perspective, you want to leave the world in a better place than where you saw it, you will fit here. And ownership is a part of every position. You are in charge of your future over here. A lot of organizations make career tracks for you, where they say, okay, you're an associate and then you're going to be senior associate and then you're going to over the period of 10 years make partner. But for us, that it doesn't exist, because you could be a research associate and then the next day you're leading all of Josh Talks. Those are the success stories at Josh, right? And so it doesn't matter where you started. In 1 year, you could be anywhere.
During hiring, the key thing I think that we do without saying it is looking for evidence of exceptional ability.
Yeah.
Not skill so much, because none of what we do is rocket science. A lot of this can be just taught.
Yeah.
So there is very heavy weightage for evidence for exceptional ability. Is there any evidence for exceptional ability if somebody is 24, 26 joining? 26 years, you got a few chances to show if you have you could have generated a few evidence points of exceptional ability, and a lot of the times that's visible. A lot of the times you have to hunt a little bit further to find them.
Scrape the surface a bit.
Scrape the surface, and that's essentially what our interview process is. And once people are in, and they have shown in the past evidence of exceptional ability, then it's on to Josh Talks to train people incredibly well, not just on the skill set, but also on how to
be
behave.
The springboard.
Yeah.
And the catalyst in their career.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about the red flags. What are the absolute no-goes for US founders? Leave aside Josh. Talk about Supriya and Shobhit. What are the no-goes in hiring for a founder?
I think one of the red flags that I've now started noticing in interviews is when the person is too much about themselves. And uses this as an opportunity to boast, to just and it's great. Yeah, it's great to be a person who recognizes their skill sets and wants to talk about it. But But for me, that's one red flag where everything in the end becomes about you and it's not about the organization or the role you played. I love to listen to conversations which are about the role and what you did in that role and how that benefited the organization rather than me being the person who kind of led the entire effort. So I think that's something. The second thing which I've started noticing right now, and maybe it's because it's a function of the kind of books that I'm reading and what I'm learning, is that people who don't listen well don't succeed. And if you look at the best leaders across the world, they have this common trait of listening. So someone who's in an interview who's just talking, who's waiting for the question to be asked before they can cut in and, you know, start asking or like counter responding to something, is someone who's like an absolute. Like that is my, in a way, like a pet peeve. Like I will not go past a 5-minute conversation if the person on the other end doesn't know how to listen well. But other than that, I think everything is open. And it's very interesting. I think also because we don't have like these requirements, like we need to only hire from B schools, or we need to hire engineers for engineering roles, or we need to hire content background for content roles. You meet such diverse people that it's crazy. Like if you walk around and you just talk to someone and you will just be like, okay, why is a UPSC aspirant who's failed thrice in the exam running product over here? Like what's happening? You won't be able to make sense of what's there. But the passion is the same in everyone.
जुनून और शिद्दत वही चीज आगे ले जाता है. Anything at your end which is a red flag?
So I hunt for depth. So I'll ask like, so if somebody has depth, they can answer some questions with deep opinions, or they'll say I don't know. Like, you know, one of two. I'll give an example. It doesn't matter what the role is, but I'll often, so we hire a lot of counselors at Josh who speak to students and actually help them do well in their life. And so one of the tasks we do for those counselors is they submit this call recording. So we have lots of call recordings from counselors. So we have to judge based on the call recording whether this person is a right fit for Josh or not. So I would often make, let's say I'm hiring some totally different position, nothing to do with this counseling or call recording, or they'll never have to hire in their life. But I'll make them listen to these 2 call recordings and say, who would you hire and why? Tell me, you know, what is like, what kind of a person is this? Whose call recording they're listening to? The depth of that answer
Showcases the DNA.
Showcase. Either the person will say, I have no idea. That's a fantastic answer also.
That's also a fair answer because he's being honest.
Absolutely. And the other really good answer is, if this person is saying, this person who we are listening to the call recording of must be from a small town, because he's able to connect really well with this person. And you know, this question that he asked, this haha that he did after listening to somebody, his emotional, his EQ is really high.
Connected.
Right? Or they'll be, it won't be ki, हाँ ये call अच्छा है.
Not superficial. Goes into that.
Goes into the depth.
Granularity.
So I would often ask this question
This is beautiful.
To check for depth.
And action.
I want to now flip this to something very interesting that happens. As a company grows and scales, there are certain elements who become disruptors. Now, disruptors can be looked at 2 lenses. कि यार ये तो मचा रहा है. But वो disruptor can also be the person जो गंद मचा रहा है. Now, when you have a super performer, again, I want to get into the mind space of you as founders, right? You have a super performer. You know that the performer's impact is actually in the bottom line. Forget the top line. Top line is frivolous. It's impacting the bottom line. But disruptor to an extent where you believe that there is also collateral damage. How does a founder know when that line is not blur and very clear to say that this person's crossing over and needs to get out of the system, even though getting out of the system immediately will impact the bottom line? How do you deal with disruptors who are negative constructs? How easy is it?
So generally there is no role where one disruptor is contributing so much to the bottom line that it's really significant. Therefore the option is pretty easy that, you know, the disruptor has to go. If you cannot spoil, like, what's your intent? Is your intent self-growth at the cost of the companies? Well, then you're not good for the company. If your intent is for the company, then you will behave a certain way. And that becomes evident. And we haven't had a case where the value that the disruptor was, we have had disruptors, but the value, we have never had a case where the value the disruptor was adding to the bottom line was so heavy
That it was,
that
even
it was a very hard
conversation. Yeah.
That was a very hard conversation to have, or a hard decision to make.
Yeah, it just hasn't happened. And it's been like a lot of the disruptor conversations have been very, very obvious. Oftentimes the disruptor thinks they have too much value.
Yeah, and I also think like there have been situations where people who know they've been doing this have recognized it because the culture is such that it doesn't allow you to do that. Like over a period of time, the people who you think are your friends will not be your friends anymore because they realize that, okay, this is not right by what the organization is doing. And then you feel so isolated, you leave yourself. That, it's almost like you wean off, because you realize that everyone else here is very different. They're wired differently.
Also, there's a difference between, being a brat and being a
Yeah.
disruptor where you're impacting the company negatively.
Malice is very...
A lot of A players are like brats.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what...
Like, honestly, I would think that
That
I'm
you're
a
a
little bit
brat.
of a brat sometimes.
Yeah.
That's
because,
I would agree.
Yes, hoga, wo वैसे होगा.
But that's also, that's also being opinionated, right?
But
the larger
that's
issue is
most
malice.
of us, yeah.
Yeah.
The disruptor, and I think the key quality तो यार मतलब negative connotation है, but the key problem point is the malice in the mind. That I think is a great construct which immediately acts as a filter. At least in my system, I determine people not by bratishness.
Yeah.
I determine people with the intent.
Yeah.
And I keep saying this, right? And you've heard me saying this. No matter who you are and how good an advisor or a counselor or whatever you are, one thing that you can't contractualize is intent. Intent is DNA, it's core to yourself. Let's come to a very interesting phase, which is always the talk of the ecosystem. And I believe overtly glamorized in our country. The ability and the power of fundraising. Why will I say it's overtly glamorized? I'll tell you. I've seen a lot of people, when I talk to them and when they come to me, and now of course scale is different, I am at a different scale, but team is increased and I have a lot of people doing the early stage practice. And when the conversation happens and you ask, tum bana kyun rahe ho, tum create kyun kar rahe ho? More than anything, a lot of times I've heard answers, isko banana hai yaar, capital raise karna hai, aage badhna hai. And as if raising capital is become the qualification to be a good founder or qualification to running a good business, irrespective of the factor that at times maybe the business doesn't even need the capital. I am a firm believer that excess capital is the biggest poison pill in a business. So let's look.
We've never had that problem.
So let's look at a little bit of minute mindset. Do you think funding is over glamorized? Number one. Number two, again for the purpose of our viewers, a lot of them might be in that zone of trying to raise funding. The first few rounds of funding that you did, what were the core lessons that you learned that you'd like to dispense to the audience?
I think one, it is glamorized because nobody. This is a really interesting conversation because even when we raised capital in our last round, and I was speaking to a journalist at a leading publication, the first thing that she asked me was, what's the amount? Because then it qualifies on whether it's going to be featured offline in print or whether it's going to go online. And if the amount is below a certain value, then it's not going to be featured anywhere. Then there is a list that comes out at the end of the week and you may be a part of that list, but that's at the call of the editor of the magazine or the publication. That defines the mindset of how the world is working, right? You will become famous if you are raising more capital, and often people who are wired differently, who are entrepreneurs, they do want fame as a result of what they've done, right? And it's something that I think is a fundamental human desire. You do want to be known for what you're building and you want to be recognized. And then when you're having such conversations, then you may start leaning towards a place where you're like, okay, if this is what it requires, if this is how I'm going to get validated, then why not take this route and raise excess capital along the way? But I think it also changes over a period of time and the market defines it. Now is not the time where it's being hyper gloated that you're raising so much capital. Now we're talking about EBITDA in conversations, which never happened in the last couple of years. So I think it changes, but the best kind of people are the people who are talking about the same metric, whether it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, or they're talking about the same metric right now. And I think that is truly a differentiating trait. Like, you know, when the highs and lows of the market are not defining what you are saying, how you are saying, what your intent to raise capital is, because
So headwinds and tailwinds don't determine the narrative.
you're set towards an end outcome, and capital is an input towards that outcome. It is not the outcome. But people start perceiving it as an outcome, because then it brings with itself validation that you've built something, you become famous, you become public, you become respected. And if that's the only reason why you started, maybe you have to look back and even, you know, like contemplate whether you're fit to be an entrepreneur or not. Because there are so many other ways of becoming famous today, that this should not be the medium that you take
True.
to drive that.
What about you?
I spoke a bit about, you know, what inspired me and the kind of organizations I'm inspired by. So the whole idea behind fundraising was never something that even really interested me. We did get bit by the FOMO bug. It did happen because in the early years we just lost a little bit sight over why we started, and it sort of just became कि fundraise तो करना ही होता है, मतलब fundraise के बिना भी होता है तरीका, you know, because the stories that are told are usually of how the fundraise happened, and then therefore this, you know, this company got set up and it was beautiful. But if you look at some of the greatest organizations in the world that we highly respect today, a lot of them, like there's no conversation of how a fundraise happened. It's just those stories are not told. Now they're starting to be told, but weren't told so much. So we did get bit by the FOMO bug, no doubt. But I think soon after we recovered and we were like, hey, what the hell are we doing? Hold on one sec, what's happening here? Like, and the question is, you have to achieve a goal in the organization. To achieve every stage of growth, you have to achieve a goal. And to achieve that goal, you need an input. A lot of the times, the way to go about it is, you know, you make this work, you add it brick by brick. And sometimes you need capital infusion to speed some things up. Great, but that's all that fundraising is all about. That's it for me. In my head, that's it. There is no like two ways about it.
So it's an enhancer. It's a means to an end. Unfortunately, a lot of people think it's the end. But it's actually a means to the end.
Yeah,
True.
yeah.
You said something very interesting. You also said, and which is a fact, that a lot of times fundraising is also a means to fame. And at times, fame is something that a lot of people chase.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. It's the human nature, right? Everyone wants to be known for what they're doing. I want to now deep dive a bit on this bit. You guys became famous at various levels. And a matter of pride for me when I see the president going across and giving an award. When I see you all, now you're no more that young, but the 30s under 30s. Hopefully I'll see you all in the 40s under 40s.
Under 30 for a couple of months.
Yeah, so you'll be 40s under 40s, whatever. But fame has come at different levels, right? Yes, you have perhaps never spoken of your individual stories the way you're speaking today. But God's been kind to say that the brand has also elevated your fame and personality for people to know what you're doing. And therefore, the ability to connect, the ability to access, lots of things happen in life. My question to both of you, how do you deny hubris to enter your mind? How do you deny that elevation to enter your mind कि अब तो हम ज़मीन से 2 इंच ऊपर है? How do you manage to say irrespective of all of this, ये सारे शायद artificial है, I still have to stay grounded to who I am and I still have to stay true to who I am. Because human nature जो है ना, यार ये fame को एक tailwind बना के उड़ना बहुत आसान हो जाता है. I know several people who used this opportunity and became a completely different person, and the day that opportunity was gone or some situation happened, they suddenly realize they're all alone. Nobody was around them. So for the purpose of our, viewers, and a lot of them are in that impressionable age. A lot of them are in the age where you guys are. And you guys might be also the dream persona that they may want to go across and get inspired by to say, हमें तो यार ऐसे ही बनना है, यही उम्र है. How do you manage your self-ego in your head? How do you manage hubris?
I think I may have I don't know if I'll have a different answer from Shobhit or not, but basically, okay, I'll try and say this in 2 or 3 different ways so that it makes sense.
And be very candid, very honest.
I don't think it's wrong to feel the need for external validation. And in today's day and age, you do count the number of likes that you get on Instagram. You do refresh, you scroll your feed to see, okay, how many other people have commented, what are they saying about you. You do look at the response that you've got on LinkedIn. You do see how many YouTube views are coming on a conversation that you're having. And that's not wrong. You should chase, if fame is a driver for you, if being perceived publicly in a way that you want to identify yourself with is something that drives you, it all makes sense, you should do it. But what you shouldn't do is behave differently in your regular life as an act of receiving that. And I think the best people in the world or the best leaders in the world are people who, when you have a conversation with or are sitting across on the dinner table, they aren't different because of the fame that they've received. And I don't think that you can teach anyone that. I think people teach you that along the way. You will have certain situations which will change the way that you think or perceive the world to be. And age gives you that maturity. And it's very weird for me to say this because when I was 20, what I was chasing was very different from when I was 23, 24 or when I was 25. Now when I'm close to 30, what I'm chasing is very different, right? And at different stages, you need to have those experiences. You need to let ego come to your head and make you feel something. You need to feel that rush and power to realize that it's not worth it. So to say that act a certain way today because you don't want to be this person tomorrow who takes this to your head, I don't think you can teach anyone that. Everyone has to go through that experience. If you chase power, you need to feel powerful to realize that it's not the only thing that matters. Like,
True.
You need to be a millionaire or a billionaire to realize that money is not what's going to give you happiness.
I think a small crux that I want to take from you, of course, given the fact that there's almost a generation difference between you and me, and I'm not playing the ages card again here, but at my age, I think everything has a DMU, the diminishing marginal utility concept.
I agree.
Be it money, be it fame, be it the reason to go across and claim whatever you think is your happiness quotient, because beyond a point, a lot of it comes and tapers down and then goes down because the requirement of that is over. What you're talking about is very similar. If you've tasted something, beyond a point, the value of that keeps reducing because your then avenues of happiness spread further and you want to do X, Y, Z further. And that's not necessarily again the same path. It could very well be that you want to give back or you want to create something else or you want to be known for something else. So that DMU recognition is very, very important.
Yeah.
But for you, Shobhit, does recognition and fame impact operations also as an entrepreneur? Does it therefore create a situation where a lot of people, and I have a lot of my friends who are very well celebrated, and I have a lot of their employees who are a part of that organization to a great extent because in their mind they are working with a celebrity. And that has a very interesting nuance. It's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Does fame, in your mind, impact decisions with respect to day-to-day ops at your end? Does it impact the input that you receive from your colleagues? Or have you managed the mantra of neutralizing everything to say, ये तो यार एक facet है, बाहर का facet है, अंदर I am who I am. I was that same 17-year-old boy who went ahead and passed that race, continued that race. I'm same today. I'm in that race and I'll continue the race. How does it come across in your mind?
So, I've worked hard to not be even like to not be known. And I'll tell you, like, I've done only 2 interviews in my life.
I'm aware of that.
One is with you right now today, and the other was one with Sandeep Maheshwari in the past. To achieve the goal of unlocking human potential, I don't think there is any role of me becoming famous or not. So why? Then it's a waste of time, because everything has to be calibrated with the meter of, is this helping me unlock human potential or not? And like, it doesn't matter either way. So I don't want to spend any energy there, and it doesn't attract me, the whole idea. In fact, it terrifies me. So I want to sit quietly and do my work and make sure that life changes for people. And so there is no conversation around, like, do this, do that. Like, often we have a brand team who's saying that, okay, like, you should do this, you should do that. And after 4 or 5 years of them terrorizing me, karo, I said, okay, you have 3 months. If you can, I'll do it for 3 months wholeheartedly. Whatever you tell me to do, I'll do. At the end of 3 months, you have to give me tangibly, how is this helping us unlock human potential? And did it for 3 months. Tasalli, you can go to my Instagram, there's 3 months of posts. And then there's 2 years before no post, and now it's been like 6 months more no post. Because there was no role to play. It's like just fake thing. It's not required. It's not required. Berkshire Hathaway is not the company it is because Warren Buffett goes and gives talks. No, it's because there was substantial value under it.
Yeah.
Fundamental that built that value. Warren Buffett going out there and spreading, his message is great, but that's for the world. That has nothing to do with the company Berkshire Hathaway.
True.
And
It's a small catalyst.
yeah, it's a small catalyst, right? And that too because in the public market. But fundamental value of the company, that does not impact.
It cannot.
It cannot. And so therefore I don't get it. I just don't get it, and I don't want anything to do with it.
This is very honest of you. This brings me to 2 parts, and I have seen this personally. A lot of times, the purpose of co-founders is also to compartmentalize. I've seen this in the journey together, where so many times in fundraising negotiations, we have literally had to kick him out of the room.
Yeah, kick him out or beg him to come. Different instances.
Actually, most of the times kick him out because I thought he'll throw something somewhere, right?
Yeah.
But what is beautiful is the fact that there are roles that is very categorically streamlined. You play a particular role, he plays a particular role. I know exactly how the division has also been done from an external party perspective. Tell me, how important is it to know when not to go across and cross and overstep versus when that stepping over is actually a helping hand, because there may be that requirement of you suddenly turning into a lifeboat for another person. So how do co-founders decide to know what the role play compartmentalization? It's one easy answer is to say each one's experience, each one's skill set, each one's complementary elements. One does one better, one does. Those are the easy answers. I'm not looking at the easy answers. I'm talking about the aspect to know that when to let go and when to go across and give that hand, say, boss, I'm here to pull you out. How does that happen?
I think if you have an honest working relationship and you see something not happening the way that you would want it to happen, or you feel very strongly about something and the other person is carrying that forward, you should step in and you should express at least your point of view. The decision to take that point of view into account is the role of the person who's playing that role, right? But if you feel strongly as a person who is in the leadership team of an organization or managing something that someone else is not doing the right thing, or is not, or you could do it better, or it's something that you feel is your area of expertise and you want to give help, the working relationship has to be so solid that you're not going there to attack, you're going there to help. And the end objective has to be very, very clear that I'm not here to take this away from you, I'm here to ensure you do it better. And again, I feel like when we have these conversations, you can say these things because you're thinking in retrospect, but this happens over a period of time when you have crossed those territories. When you've crossed those territories and the fights have been ugly and conflict has happened, and then you've learned what you could do better, then you can sit and give advice that, okay, don't do this. And all of that is necessary to build a strong relationship where you can see, like, ki here is my territory. And here is, and also like what is the DNA of the person that you're working with, right? And as I think a core leadership team, you need to know everyone's strengths and everyone's weaknesses, and you need to know them inside out. You need to know what takes a person the wrong way, what makes them cry, what makes them laugh. You have to have that knowledge about everyone who's working.
And the equation.
Yeah.
And the equation.
And it develops over a period of time, and then it just becomes easy. Then it's natural that, okay, if I have to take this input, I will go to these two people because they have better knowledge there, even though this is my domain. I'll factor it in and then I'll execute the way that I need to. And so there is a high degree of like cross-functional working that happens here, right? And we meet a lot. I think we meet, sometimes I feel like, I have to tell Shobhit, like everybody in the team that listen, we are doing these Friday meetings and all of that, but I've read a book and the book says that beyond 2 hours, nothing is productive. So let's cut these meetings down to less than 2 hours. But I think that those meetings are what make us. When you're just sitting in a room and having conversations, sometimes even ranting and like trying to figure out what to do next.
It's also very
that
hard
defines.
to resist. Like if I'm seeing that, okay, this thing can be done that way in this other department, it's very hard to resist from sharing it. More often than not, it's useless and it doesn't lead to any improvement. Why? Because like either I don't have enough context or what I'm saying doesn't make any sense anyway. Otherwise, I would listen to more often, but it anyway doesn't make sense. So, but I've seen that like, if you do it in the right manner and you communicate, that you just know when it's the right time and you must communicate. You just know it. And then you should, but every other time you should resist.
Or give a warning. I feel like now we give warnings to people that, hey, listen, I might say this to you. Like I've seen you do this with production a lot.
What?
Like Shobhit cares a lot about production value of sets, right? And he cares a lot about lighting and how your under eyes
he was trying
looking.
to peep into my camera as well.
Yeah,
he couldn't
he
resist
does
himself.
this.
I saw that.
It's his core DNA to make something look good, like on camera. So he'll give the production team advice and he'll say that this is how it needs to be done, but there is always a warning. Like he will not have this conversation, or I mean not a warning really, but like a disclaimer.
More of a disclaimer, more of a message.
This is how I feel, but at the end of the day, it's your role. And I think that saying that also, and sometimes people listen to him, sometimes people take their own call.
Often they don't. Often they take their own call, and I love it, right? Because
this is a validated decision, and they've looked into everything and taken a call. Also, in our firm, of course, you've seen us grow. You've seen literally our journey grow the way it is. And today, when I look back and I say when I started, it was just 4 of us. Today, there are almost 80 of us. There were 3 co-founders. Today, I have 10 partners. Different things go at a scale, and then you realize that everyone's going to be different. But what is key is, do you have the power to celebrate the differences? So we have a philosophy in our firm to say that you're supposed to be different. If everyone follows one person, then boss, it's a lalaka company. But idea is that when you see the differences together, are you making the differences an issue? Or are you making the differences a cause of celebration? That thank God there are differences because you have multiple perspectives coming in and you can take a cognitive call accordingly. So we believe in the philosophy at Vertices to say that celebrate the differences because then only you'll be able to make a difference. Otherwise you can't. So having said that and coming to the construct now, tell me, and you've seen different aspects. You are known in the founders world as 2 young founders who are doing very well for themselves. I've seen you guys literally grow and bloom in front of me. And likewise, you've also seen a lot of our journey. What do you think is the role of good advisors? How important is the role of good advisors in someone's life? And advisors could be a whole bunch of people, right? Your mentors, your lawyers, your bankers, your chartered accountant, whole bunch of people, your tax advisors, several people. So let's go a little bit in the context of how does one look at the role of those advisors in life? What do you think are the aspects that really matter? And then let's take a little bit of construct around how our journey has evolved. What have you all seen in our journey? I have so much to talk about and I have spoken about, but where have you seen and what have you seen in the journey evolve as well? So let's talk a bit about, especially again from the viewer's perspective, say that how do you create that inner circle and how important is that inner circle of good people around you, good cohort around you? Let's understand that a bit.
So, I believe so much in the role of advisors that one of the biggest products in Josh is essentially to give the entire youth of India role models and advisors. To some extent, you could say what we're trying to do with every single talk that's out there is to give a role model to the youth, to look at, hey, I can live life this way. Here are a few decisions that are great to make. Here is how I went about living my life, and therefore here's how you can live yours. That's essentially what a Josh talk is.
I can't believe you guys actually pushed me to do one, but I
Yeah.
actually did it.
Yeah.
I would have never contemplated to do it.
Yeah, and I'm sure your story is viewed by people who don't have access to you, who are maybe in the far off places in the country, and they can now get access to you and see, oh my God, if Vinayak can do it, so can I. I get Vinayak. That's how he's thinking. That's how I think. And he was from that kind of a background. I'm from that kind of a background. Hey, I'm in Bombay living in a dormitory with 24 other people on the ground where there are rats running around. Damn it, if he can do it, so can I. I had no hope, but damn it, Vinayak has done it, I can do it too. That's the role of an advisor somewhere.
Creating the hope.
It may not be to do lessons from your stories, but it's,
The possibility.
yeah. So I have had like so many critical decisions that were taken because of the role models or the advisors in my life. Whether it's from my childhood days or whether it's even now, when we have to take a key decision, you're the phone call to make. And
Go back a little to that. Take a name of one that advisor, one that mentor,
yeah,
who perhaps created that moment in your life which you can never forget because of that one word of advice or that one thought process or one action. I've heard about the slap from the father. So other than that, we'll talk about maybe something
Oh
else.
God.
yeah.
Daddy problems.
No, I don't know.
I am
Daddy problems.
Can we reel that? Daddy problems. Yeah, go ahead.
Supriya, that's definitely becoming a reel.
Yeah, let's set it to
You asked
south.
for it.
No.
Okay, so that name is, I know the name as like clearly as I know anything else. It's Neeraj Khanna, who's my dad's childhood friend,
Okay.
and he went to do insanely well in his life. Started from barely anything, and then went on to kill it. So when I was in my, I think about 6th standard or something, 5th, 6th standard, I think the gap between 5th and 6th, my dad sent me to Bangalore to spend my summer vacations with him. And to, go to Bangalore, Kullu se Bangalore. It's like
Two different planets.
two different planets. So firstly, Kullu se Bangalore was the world of a difference. But then, for the first time in my life, I got exposure to somebody who was performing at the cream, at the top of the world. And from him, I got to learn so much about, how do you even eat at a dining table. It's like he's like, every moment of his life he's attacking life. It's not about like, life is not passing him by. He's held life by the horns and he's running life. And that, and I never felt that before. It used to be so interesting that so he was going in the morning and I'm asking him, आप कहाँ जा रहे हो? So he's like, मैं लंदन जा रहा हूँ एक मीटिंग के लिए. तो मैंने बोला बैग बुक नहीं, 2 घंटे की मीटिंग करके वापस आ जाऊंगा. कैसे जा रहे हो? There's a private plane waiting for him to take him there. He has a 3-hour meeting and then he's going to be back. But it was just, I think my life like truly changed because of the things that I learned from him and the advice that I got on various matters. Like for example, he said, I was whatever, like how old are you in 6th standard? He said, get a job. I was like, what? Get a job. Today, right now, go work somewhere. Learn something. Go make money.
मतलब 12 साल के बच्चे को to give that life lesson, very different.
Yeah. And essentially, the advice that, like how I comprehended it is, you are useless unless you are useful. There is nothing in the middle. And you can lie to yourself, but either you're useless or you're useful. Go become useful. And it's like, so he put a lot of intensity into me. Intensity.
True. What on BTS? So I'm going to cut. I started.
And action.
What's your take? how important are good advisors, good mentors, good cohort of people?
I think it's underrated how important they are. Sometimes, you build relationships with people and you feel like these are your friends who are giving you advice and it's just one thing, but it actually is the most important thing. When you're feeling a certain way, you need to have a group of people to talk to. When you're taking a decision based on, like a particular specialization, you need to have certain people to talk to. And you also have to have generic people that you're inspired by, right? Like when I was, I think growing up, and I didn't really have the one person that I could go to, but when I started consuming content on the internet, I had this visual of Indra Nooyi, and that became my, like, she's my advisor. Like for the early years in developing who I want to be, what I want to be known for, and like it's almost like a visual conversation that I have, and she's sitting across the room and she's telling me, be the hardest working person in a room, because she says that again and again. It's ingrained in my DNA now, how I act because of her advice. And so I think at different stages you need people that you can...
Did you get a chance to meet her?
Yeah, I did.
So why don't you take us that? That is the true aspiration that I want the viewers to go across and think of, right? You started with someone who's unattainable, unachievable, unreachable.
Yeah.
And you draw inspiration from that person, because I know you met her recently.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a couple of years.
I
It's
know,
been 5
in
years.
US,
Yeah.
but take that journey. That's a moment, right? To live.
Yeah.
That you can dream of someone saying that this is my inspiration. I'll never meet that person. And then you create a journey. And you are sharing this. I remember I'd seen that picture, I think you'd sent, where you're sharing that dais or that stage where you're standing together, and right next to you is the same person who you drove inspiration from. Take us through that journey. Take us through that moment. Take us through that emotion.
I think, like I feel...
And don't underplay it.
No, I don't want to underplay it. I think just to be invited to a forum where someone who you respect is invited to share their thoughts is a big achievement in its own feat, right? To be in the same room, to breathe the same air, to like see them around you, to see how they act when they're in front of you. What I'm really looking forward to is a one-on-one conversation. I think that's a place where I want to be, where there is so much mutual respect that I deserve 1 hour of her time. But I think just being in that space really changes you, and then you start noting characteristics that you can't see on the internet, right? Which is, for example, like, there was so much movement happening, there was so much like activity, and I remember that we said that we want a photo with you, and then suddenly there was like this rush of people that came, and she had to leave, and then she was leaving, and we like went behind her and all of that, and before she exited, she turned around and she's like, hey, I promised you a photo. And just to remember that is also something where you really see how
the smallest things make the difference.
Yeah, the smallest things make a huge difference, and that I think was a very, very real moment. I also had the opportunity to go to Goalkeepers last year, as of course a representation of Josh, but where I was, I didn't get to meet them one-on-one, but I was like 5 steps away from Bill and Melinda Gates. They host the Goalkeeper Summit each year, and then the nuances that you pick up of people when they're in the same room are very, very different from when you see on the internet, right? So I think having role models, one, is incredibly important. Second, to having the right people for structured advice. Like, for example, if it's a people-related problem, I go to Ankur a lot because I feel like he understands the psyche of people. So he can help me with how a person is thinking. So he's my go-to person for that. When it's a situation-related problem, when it's a self-doubt related problem, when it's anything where I just want to rant, I go to Ritesh. Like, he's my second go-to person because I know he's going to be able to say something that will change the way that I'm thinking or orienting myself. And of course, when I have a legal-oriented problem or when shit hits the roof, I come to you. And it's not because of our working relationship, but I think it's because of what happened before we started working together. That's incredibly important. I remember when we got connected in 2016-17, we were raising a 1.2 crore friends and family angel round. And we had this, we had another legal firm on board, and we had like a term sheet and stuff like that. And I spoke to you, and of course, we couldn't afford you at that stage. And I remember in that conversation, you said that I can't bring you on as a client right now because you wouldn't be able to pay me what I charge, but I can always review what you've agreed to, which someone else has prepared, and to tell you exactly what you shouldn't be doing. And for me, it was extremely valuable that sometimes when you reject a client, you're just like, okay, they're not fitting in my fee bracket and that's it, I shouldn't be going with them. But to say that, okay, you have access to my WhatsApp so that now, I'm here to help you and just review it as a friend, was very valuable, because there were some red flags in that agreement that we got cleaned up as a result of that. Yeah.
You told us.
No, and I think every conversation that I've had with Vinayak ever since then has been more of that, here is an agreement, I don't understand it, this is you know it, can you please, literally for lack of a better word, I have told him, like, please dumb this down and tell me how this is going to impact me. And then he role plays these situations that if this was to happen, this is going to happen, this is the worst outcome, this is the best outcome. And then we're like, okay, I'm okay with this outcome. Can now this be turned into,
Paper.
Yeah, paper that
Which is what my team does.
that can make this
I do the drama.
magic happen for all of us. Yeah, and this journey is so hard, Vinayak, and you know it. And negotiations are so hard when someone is investing in you. You want to see the better of everyone, but everyone has their own motive, that you do need sound legal advice. And now I think it's become sometimes people will be like, what are you getting paid to recommend to Vinayak, and what is this, like, are you getting a cut? Because for any founder who's starting out, the first thing when they say that, okay, I have a term sheet with me, the first thing that I tell them is, get a sound lawyer on board. Here is a number, call them up. If you can't afford them today, like, just figure it out, he'll help you out, but get them in early. So I think it's very important that if there are areas which are not your DNA or your expertise, you need to have good advice from day one.
What's been your fondest memory? Given that you spent a lot of invisible moments in negotiation rooms with us.
Swati snacks.
I realized that
I'm
I
kidding.
realized I know nothing. After being in these so many rooms with you and your team, it's like यार मेरे को तो कुछ आता ही नहीं है, तो अगर आप लोग ना बैठे होते मैं तो कुछ भी कर रहा था. So it's like the feel and the discomfort is when you don't know what the hell is happening, you don't know, you feel so helpless, right? I think more than legal advice for me, like what ends up happening if you're in the room is that अब सब ठीक हो जाएगा. Yeah, it's this belief कि अब सब ठीक हो जाएगा. मुझे अभी भी नहीं पता क्या हो रहा है. Of course I know,
you know much more
what's
now.
happening, but it's this feeling कि अब सब ठीक हो जाएगा. Lifeboat.
So that takes us to the...
Wait, but fondest memory I have to tell you.
Yeah.
The fondest memory is there was
This is
this
scary, I have to hear this.
final few days are happening and
मतलब फॉन्डी बोलना भाई, गाली मत देना.
and we come to Bombay to your office for the first time, which by the way is unbelievably beautiful.
The new one is even more beautiful.
No way, I haven't been to the new
It's
one.
like 4 times the size of the earlier one.
The last time I was there, you were telling me that it's
That they're
coming up.
getting it, yeah.
You love it.
Fantastic. So we're sitting in your conference room and you feed us so much food. That was so damn good. Like you had some 12 types of Maggie that you made us try.
Yeah, don't
So-
say I'm promoting Maida.
Yeah, I
That's
know,
not
what is
the
this, a
idea.
fitness?
I've done a lot of fitness recalibration, but yeah. गरीब आदमी का स्नैक मैगी होता है ना भाई.
No, but
That was
really
also
want to
Vinayak in his old unfit form when he was propagating all of this food. Okay, now he
see, you
gives us
asked me for my
healthy
best
food.
memory. I
Yeah.
remember eating popcorn while you did all the work. Popcorn and Maggie. I was sitting there eating popcorn and Maggie. I was like,
I
You're
think
right,
one of the fondest memories I have was in one negotiation. I don't know which round now that we've done quite a few together. But I remember the counterparty counsel started with one line saying this is a deal breaker. And we three looked at each other and I was very, very happy because that was the moment I realized there's that one line of saying that this is a deal breaker to start a deal in a negotiation. I think the entire leverage shifted to us. And as a result, by the time the deal happened, I didn't see that counsel around. So for a lot of people who are young advisors, who are perhaps also part of watching this and learning a lot, you have to realize that good advice is about understanding the must-haves and the good-to-haves.
Yeah.
And marrying it together basis the situation and the circumstance. And remembering that advisors are facilitators. Actually, the marriage is finally between the principals. So as facilitators, you cannot go across and do things in a manner that it leaves some kind of a bitter taste somewhere. Because you'll do the deal and move away. But the principals have to continue. And a good facilitator understands that and builds that across and makes that as a continuity element. So that's my learning, and that's what I try to dispense to a lot of younger generation
But also,
advisors.
so for example, identification of must-haves, right? For anyone who is, for lack of a better word, not familiar with what contracts look like or what agreements look like, you don't know what a must-have or a need to have or a good to have in that situation is. So I think at that stage, you need to be a person who tries to not know, but just submit yourself to the advisor and say that, teach me. I don't know what it means. Like, I know, like now I feel like when we speak to your team, a lot of them tell us, oh, you can join us as paralegals, because we've gone into a situation where I've literally been like, I want to know step by step, like indemnity is a word, but what is the consequence?
But my team loves you guys, and they love working directly with you. But, again, the whole thought process is about understanding, but more importantly, and I keep saying this, what advisors also should understand is that mahal matters.
Yeah.
And advice is basis mahal. यार अगर आपके पास सोचो, like when you went through that hard journey, एक term sheet, एक महीने का runway, the advice can't be the same as 3 term sheet and 1 साल का runway. So a good advisor has to understand the mahal, understand कि भाई आपके पास tailwinds है या headwinds है, आपके पास क्षमता है या distress है, and curate the advice accordingly. That is the long-term advice. That is the thought process of creating.
Also, Vinayak, I think there's one other aspect that we haven't spoken about, which is that, like, does the advisor relate to the struggle of building an organization? And does the advisor relate to the, not able to sleep at night because you're tense about, 5 things? And that also changes everything, actually.
Changes everything.
Right? And I've seen that it's not just with you, but your team deeply is pro-founder.
यार उसका भी रीजन है यार शोभित, because I am a founder.
Yeah.
My co-founders are founders.
Yeah.
We are all entrepreneurs. We all started with nothing to build. So that empathy, it trickles down. I keep saying this, that once you turn an entrepreneur, you get a lifetime membership to a club called the Empathy Club.
Yeah.
Everything that you took for granted in a job, there's nothing for granted. Everything has a concept. ये पानी आप जो टेबल पे रखे हो, ये कॉफी जो आप पिला रहे हो, ये lights जो जल रहे, everything has process. Everything has to be accountable for. So that empathy matters. A lot of advisors don't understand the power and the impact of treasury that can happen in an entrepreneur's journey when he's building. Every day delay of money coming in has a P&L impact.
Yeah.
So rather than curating situations, you have to curate solutions. So that's the whole thought. I think वो तभी आता है जब एक entrepreneur दूसरे entrepreneur के साथ मिलके बैठ के बात करे और कुछ अनोखा बनाए. That's what we are trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to create. And this is just one part of another venture, another passion project, and hopefully this is my way of giving back to the ecosystem where amazing people like you come and talk about it. So last bit, coming to the penultimate segment, and then I have a very interesting segment which my team has got very inspired by some talk shows. So we'll come to that. But before that, if you have to summarize both of your definition of what a lifeboat is.
Yeah, when shit hits the roof, or when you need a lifeboat, when everything you consider constants don't remain constants. Like, let's say if gravity wasn't there today, what would we go to? Like, what would make us what do we hold on to? What's the pillar in our life if the one pillar which we knew of, gravity, doesn't exist anymore? That is what the concept of a lifeboat I'll relate to. So for me, I think lifeboats are some people and an idea. And I'll go to the idea first. The only thing that matters to me, the pillar of my life, is that I have to attempt to unlock human potential or die trying. Truly. That's the idea. That's the first one. That's my lifeboat. That when shit hits the roof, that's the idea I go to. That's the constant that does not change.
That's the cause.
That's the...
For existence.
There is nothing... It's like, okay, let me give an analogy here. For a mother, maybe it would be a child. Even if shit hits the roof, the child protecting, let's say newborn baby, right? It's it's just fundamentally human for a mother. Just care for that, right? There is no question about it. So that child becomes the essentially. So that's that idea for me. And then the lifeboat are the people, and we are speaking about blind trust, who I will just blindly go to and trust. Everything is shaken. I don't know what is true anymore, but those people are true. They don't change. And I'm lucky to have like a few of them in this room, Supriya and you included, and maybe like a few others, including a few members of family and maybe a few others, advisors that I've spoken about as well. So that's it. For me, there is no other lifeboat. The lifeboat is that idea and these few people. That's it.
Beautiful. What about you?
I think, like, I mean, I don't know how to articulate it better, because I think that's like truly what a lifeboat means. But maybe for me, it's a circle of trust. It's a pool of people who see me better than I see myself. And over a period of time, I've built those 2-3 people, 4 people who can look at me and visualize a future for me that even I can't. And they truly are like my lifeboats, right? Who I know that if I go to when a situation is bad, who I call for help, who'll donate like an organ to me if I need it, right? That has to be the intensity of that relationship. And of course, some of them are advisors, some of them are in the team and family, but that's sort of what a lifeboat is.
True. At times also the mindset.
Yeah.
At times also the mindset. So this brings us to, the last segment of this beautiful moment. And my team is pretty inspired. So don't hold it otherwise from, I'm sure, some fantastic shows. They've prepared something known as Lifeboat Shots. Basically rapid fire. Fancy term for rapid fire. But थोड़ा सा ना इसमें दिल से सोचेंगे, थोड़ा सा हम दिमाग कम यूज़ करेंगे, थोड़ा सा इंस्टेंटेनियस होंगे, थोड़ा सा फन करेंगे. हमारा काफ़ी इमोशन, हैवी कॉन्सेप्ट्स, काफ़ी कुछ हो गए. सो दिस इज़ द लाइटर अप सेक्शन, है ना. और शो थोड़ा सा शायद सुप्रिया हिंदी में बात कर ले. Even though she claimed her Hindi was phenomenal, the whole thing has been in English for her.
आपने बात नहीं करी, जो क्वेश्चन पूछता है अगर वो हिंदी में पूछते हैं तो जवाब हिंदी में आते हैं.
मैं बात हिंदी में कर रहा हूँ, बीच में क्वेश्चन अंग्रेजी में होगा, है ना. बात शोभित.
बिल्कुल.
If you had the chance to make one thing right, one moment of your life right, maybe recalibrate something in the past, what would it be?
I would be a lot less angry in the early days of Josh. Anger the positives of anger exist, but the negatives can very easily be calmed down. There's no need to throw things around.
The negatives are what are lead sinkers. If you had to relive one memory, relive it, what would it be?
So I think for me it would be this trip to Thailand with my best friend who died of ovarian cancer, and I couldn't spend time with her during her last days. So it's something that's also this huge amount of guilt that's there on my shoulders. But I think that trip, because it just personifies our relationship built over the years. So yeah.
For you, if you could, you would definitely, but let's say if you had a chance to go on a date with a very popular person, and not necessarily a celebrity, but a very popular person, and I leave that to your choice, which popular figure would you like to go on a date with?
This answer has also evolved a lot, but basically whatever content piece that I watch, then I become enamored by the person, because I'm like, okay, I want to know what this person's story is a little bit. And recently I just finished watching the AP Dhillon documentary, so I feel like I would want to go on a date with him, because I just want to understand like how he was able to do what he did.
Punjabi inherent element is coming out.
Nice.
Yeah.
One.
But my mom told me कि उसकी engagement हो गई or something like that.
Oh, shit.
पता नहीं, I don't know how my mom has all this information more than I do from the tabloids. But
Tell us one thing that only your family knows about you and no one else, not even Supriya.
That I'm on the spectrum on autism.
As a child,
Even now.
Supriya, same question for you. One
I
thing.
have a very funny thing,
Okay.
which is really weird also. But
Don't call yourself out.
yeah, but
I mean, like funny and
Basically,
weird
I
defines
have-
you.
almost like a hyper intensively active sense of smell. Like, you know how dogs have,
Yeah, yeah, I
where you
understand.
can sniff people from.
Have you checked thyroid?
Yeah. I am a
So
hypothyroid.
that's like a collateral element of thyroid.
I had no idea, but for me, but it was there even when I was a child. I didn't have thyroid.
Therefore, it could
But
be
smell
developed.
is my comfort. Like I remember my mom telling me I used to sleep with this like really mushled up chudni, but that belonged to some grandparent, so that smell was there and that was my comfort.
So that was your
But like
blanket.
my sense of comfort is the smells around me.
Nice.
So when a smell changes around me, like I become disoriented. Ki everything needs to be fixed.
For both of you, whoever wants to go first, if you could have any one superpower for a day, only for a day, what would it be and why?
I know this one. So it's pretty lame, okay, but I can't think of anything else. Like, my whole life is only about thoughts like this. So, the ability to be able to expose people to everything in the world. It's so stupid, I know, but like,
Yeah, Shobhit says if he had an injection that could inject potential into people, he would start an injection making company.
I'm not emotional about videos and about Josh or anything. I'm only emotional about unlocking potential. And whatever the way to do that is. So, my superpower would be
Unlock potential. The unlock potential man. What about you?
I think for me it would be like the ability to fly, because I want to be able to, like, you know how they talk about the people who look at Earth from outer space and then they have a view on what's happening in that world and they want to then change that view. Like I want that out of Earth experience, where I just want to be like floating and looking at what's happening in the world.
If you could eat only one type of food for the rest of your life, what would it be? And I know you're also a reasonable foodie. I've seen you go at all those 12 types of Maggies in my office.
Yeah. You know, it's very interesting. I can be like both extremes. So my would be, I once
Oh my God,
lost
Shobhit.
like I think 35 kgs or something.
Talk to me when you lose 69 kgs, bro.
No, you are a legend, Vinayak. You are a legend.
Yeah, I reached there.
But for
the
us
fact I was a
plebeians-
legend is I reached there to lose 69 kgs. They're like two human beings going out.
So how I lost that amount of weight is just by eating ghee and tori for my whole life. Like breakfast, lunch, dinner, it's the ghee or tori. And with 2 rotis each meal. That was what I did for a long time.
How long?
Maybe about like 8-9 months. 8 months, yeah.
Okay. So what would you eat? Ghee and tori for the rest of your life? What
I love
about
it, no nonsense.
I want to ask you a different question. If you had to keep one food cuisine away from him,
From me.
from him,
From him.
which to torment him, to torture him, which would that cuisine be that you would not let him have?
It'll be like a dish. It'll be butter chicken.
Yeah?
Yeah.
He's fanatic about
and
it.
also that Moti Mahal and Mughal Mahal, 2 places butter chicken just removed from Shobhit's life.
No,
It'll
please
be
don't
like
do
a
that.
full body will shake to,
You know, life
to
has to
what
be
it.
about a complex thing, but it also has to be beautiful.
Yeah.
About like eating banana chicken. Right? That makes everything so much more beautiful. It's art.
Oh God, that's funny. That's funny. There's some lame questions. I'm just skipping out those lame ones because my team's really inspired by...
It's okay, lame is fun. We can do lame.
Okay, since you want it, it's very Bollywood inspired. If you're a... can't believe I'm reading this out, but... I mean like... it's
I'm
like
very
super
Bollywood.
lame.
You can ask me. Like, I'm the most Bollywood person I know.
Yeah.
You have to hear this question
Okay,
first.
first tell.
If you were given a chance to write a Tinder bio for Supriya, what would you write?
I have
The
no
most
idea.
Bollywood person I know.
You should ask her only because this I
May
can't answer.
I would make
Exactly,
it.
I'm like, I can't even ask this.
I know why not. I am the epitome of the role that Kareena Kapoor played in Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, that's how I see myself in this world. My Tinder bio would read me apni favorite too. And would have like that photo of me. I have the same red outfit also. How do you not know this about me? Like, I am as filmy as it gets.
Thank God you've not brought that into the tables of
Yeah.
negotiation. I mean, like half the people would just run away saying,
Yeah.
"मैं अपनी favorite हूँ."
It's amazing.
Okay. For both of you, mobile or book?
Book.
Depends where
be
you
honest.
are and all
Mobile.
that. Mobile.
She's feeling guilty about it.
No.
Kindle or
Depends
hardcover?
on a flight.
Hardcover.
Hardcover.
I don't like
Old
Kindle.
school. I don't
No,
like
no,
Kindle as well.
hardcover
I like the smell. You know, the smell of the page.
I open
I do
every
this
book
and I
and
smell
smell
it.
it. That's
I smell
half
it
the
like
fun.
that, yeah.
We are connecting on smells over here. This is really
You know the
weird.
other thing I really like? I don't know if you've ever done this. So there are these, so in Bombay, when you come, there are these, in Old Fort area, Fountain Fort area, there are these old crooks and corners where you get these books which are really old. So one part is about getting those old books, but the second part I like is the old book smell also.
Yeah.
Because it's got that little bit of, a little bit of must, rust and, mist all combined together.
Yeah.
I just love that smell. I don't know why it's weird, but
No,
We also
no,
have
I love
time.
the old books too.
We
I try
also
to
have
I
time.
don't. I just have weird smell fetishes. I like smell of old books. Video calls or meeting personally?
Meeting personally. I
By
hate
far,
Zoom.
meeting
I
personally.
hate Zoom. It's the worst.
Yeah, actually, I don't agree with her. You know why? Because we did few of these rounds and negotiations and discussions where it was on Zoom. She actually would switch the camera off and laugh our gut out because a lot of fun was happening and we were taking a lot of happiness across. She couldn't have done that person. And she actually owned up to me later saying, "Thank God there was Zoom. I shut it and I was laughing."
Yeah, that's true. It depends on the situation, but for a connect, you need to meet someone
That's true.
in person.
Nothing like the touch therapy.
also
Like I don't
various-
hire on Zoom.
Yeah.
I don't
even
hire
I
on Zoom.
can't. It's tough.
Movies in theaters or movies on OTT?
For me, theatre. I love
Yeah.
to watch movies in the theatre.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
popcorn,
With the popcorn, with the whole vibe, and
the Dolby
just make-
sound.
make
What about
merry.
you?
Theatre.
Yeah,
Yeah, but with masala fries.
dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Dogs, yeah.
Monsoon, summer or winter?
Summer.
Spring.
Okay, she had to change the question.
Yeah,
the
but
problem
why?
is again she had to change.
But I don't
She
like.
will not give the right
like, I
answer.
like-
She'll change it and try and give some other
The
answer.
Feb to April time is the best time.
In Delhi, yeah,
Yeah.
in Delhi.
So, my
Yeah, before that, for the prior 3 months you stop living, you go to some other city. But yeah, I
it's
understand.
very cold in winters. I can't deal with the cold.
And the smog.
The part of
Overrated?
Yeah.
Smog?
No, it's not overrated. It's there.
Okay.
It's just there and you're a part of it. You can't do much.
I think it's overrated. I come here every winter to do work, but yeah. Tell me, this is a little interesting, a little deep, huh? I believe a lot in this. This is for you, Shobhit. Not because you have depth and she doesn't.
Yeah, I was just like, what the hell? All the deep questions are being directed towards Shobhit.
Because he started by saying he likes depth, right? And you didn't object to it.
No, I just hunt for it in interviews.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that be?
Think bigger.
Yeah?
Even bigger. Even bigger.
Even bigger.
Even bigger. Dream more.
For you, I'm changing the question a bit, but I'm giving depth to you as well.
Thank you.
One piece of advice that you feel and wish someone would have given to you 10 to 15 years earlier in your younger self.
I think it would be like, you are enough.
So no external validation required.
Yeah, or you don't have to be someone else. Like, you don't always have to chase
Hmm.
someone else.
I love it.
Yeah.
For both of you, what's the best thing that you've learned from failure?
I think what I've learned is that you learn the harsh realities of people around you when you are typecasted a failure. So I think the ability to see
Truth.
through people and the truth and then be able to take people decisions better comes from when you failed.
At your lowest level is where you see the truest world. That's what I believe.
I don't have a good point to add. Like, I can't connect.
You can't connect to failure. I'll tell you one of the things which I love, because I want to talk about this myself. What I have learned from failure is it's inevitable. And therefore, what you need to learn is to fail better every time.
Yeah.
And people don't understand the depth of failing better. You will fail, but you have to keep failing better. I had to say it because this is, this is something very close to my heart.
Important.
Then things like this we discuss often, right? When this is that kind of advice you bring. That's why for me, advice from you is not just legal. It's about life.
Yeah, it's never been legal enough here. I'm a very non-lawyer lawyer.
Absolutely.
I keep
It's
saying this.
basically
And
literally like a bade bhaiya, right? So it's like
I
advice
appreciate
like
it.
that,
I appreciate it, guys. Okay, last part at your end, which I will hold you all true to for season 2. Nominate the guest you would like to see in Lifeboat in season 2.
Ooh. That's very interesting. I feel like I would want you to do a segment with Mukesh Ambani because I want to know this much about him.
You missed the question's first part.
What is the first
That
one?
I will hold you to.
Oh, I have to get him. Oh, sorry.
No, not you to
I
get
can't-
him. I'll hold you to it means I'll leverage. So I don't think you will leverage Mukesh Bhai to say, Mukesh Bhai, please come and talk.
Acha,
I'll
like
be
that.
glad.
Who we have to get.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, not get. I mean, like, obviously, when I hold you to it means that, of course, that you would love to get and you can get. Like that.
Oh, like that.
I mean, like, I love the Mukesh Ambani part. We are not cutting this. We are not editing this. We are keeping it.
Yeah.
I hope Mukesh Bhai is listening to this, and I hope, the Josh of Josh
please
talk can
come.
get Mukesh Bhai to get
Please
into
come.
the session, because a whole bunch of us would love to learn a lot from him. He's a rock star.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But yeah, if he come down closer to earth,
Yeah.
who do you guys like to nominate?
Shobhit.
So 2 people come to mind.
Okay.
One is Akash Chaudhary.
Even I was thinking the exact same thing right
Yeah.
now.
So I have deep respect for Akash. Deep respect for Akash, because it's, especially in education, it is so tough to build an institution that actually does right by students. Actually does right by students and gives them really high education and drastically improves their chance of success. Deep respect for what Akash has done and has actually gone to the tier 2, tier 3.
He and in fact even his father, Chaudhary
Yeah,
Sahib.
Yeah,
I haven't
fantastic.
had much interaction.
Fantastic guy.
I haven't
Fantastic
had
guy.
much opportunity to interact with his father, but with Akash. So another person who I've seen over the last few years do insanely well and really build a fantastic organization is Akshay Chaturvedi
Oh, yeah.
of Leverage.
Yeah.
He's such a funny person.
Akshay is there as a part of a cohort where I'm a part of as well.
Okay,
Good guy.
fantastic.
Very
yeah,
good guy.
Yeah, and he's built like a great.
Yeah, he
great
just raised
organization.
capital.
Yeah.
Reasonably decent sized capital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's doing good stuff. He and I were supposed to, as it is, catch up. So he's doing good stuff.
Yes, so I think he would be such a great person to move from.
Very cool. I'll hold you to it. What about you?
Since we've set the precedent of inviting 2 people, I'm going to also stick to 2 people and very, very different type of people.
This will be interesting.
Why?
Very different means you have some crazy ass idea in your
No,
mind.
no,
Let's hear
it's
that.
aisa nahi hai, but so one is, of course, I would have loved to see Vinita also do this, but you've done an episode with Kaushik, who I also
they are my
admire
heart.
so
They are my
much.
heart,
So
yeah.
that is not going to be my person now. But I think I would want to listen to a very, very deep conversation like this with probably Ghazal from Mama Earth.
Okay.
So that would be interesting as well. Because I've spoken to her and I felt like I couldn't get enough in that conversation because it requires a lot of time. So I think for a long format, she would be an amazing person to talk to. Especially with what's been happening with the IPO and then, like just talking to people and then having that image, like I love what she stands for. And then the second person who's a complete different, like non-startup oriented person is Vikas Divikirti sir, who is the founder of Drishti IS. He's of course a great public speaker, but I think a conversation like this with him would be
That'll be super.
really solid.
Yeah. So I'll hold you to that as well.
Yes.
But thank you so much for doing this. Before we sign off, there's this one little activity, again inspired by
Are we going to
my
sign a
team.
mug?
Oh yes, so this is I actually have a better construct around this.
Oh,
Supriya wants to be.
And I'm going to
Like
tell you,
you don't
thank
watch
you.
Bollywood
And I'll tell
stuff.
you, I'm going to tell you why. So forget the Bollywood element of it.
yeah.
I'll bring the commercial element of it. So this is my retirement fund planning.
अच्छा.
Because all my guests are super rock stars. कभी ना तुम लोग सब billionaire rock stars बन जाओगे, high funda लोग बन जाओगे, मतलब अभी भी हो और बनोगे, and then your signatures will count a lot. So I keep telling everyone that boss, I want to auction the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And make the
That's
money.
awesome.
है ना? So please sign something that you think is about it, what you need to talk about, what you feel, and yeah, there you go. First for you, I'm going to open this and give it to you.
Thank you.
Who's got the better handwriting?
By far.
By far.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have the doctor, so I have the doctor's handwriting. Basically legible.
I have the lawyer's handwriting.
How is that, clean or?
Oh, dude, it's perfect. You have to spend hours to understand it, and I can bill you.
I'm going to write my full name because there are a lot
Do you
of
also want to?
Supriyas that I've been meeting these days. So I don't
sorry?
want
Yeah,
you
you're
to.
supposed to write your full name. I wouldn't know
Yeah.
why you would not write your full name.
Yeah.
I don't understand that also. Are you
Oh,
trying to
unrub
edit it
it.
also now?
No, my signature, the L went a little bit here.
It's okay. They'll still recognize it. I'll put it across on the screenshot. There'll be an image.
Fine.
There'll be a close-up. They'll know it's you.
Cheti cheti.
Cheti cheti. भूख लगी है.
Can I say something that I've been really
Of
wanting
course.
to say?
Now you can say anything.
He looks like Vijay Verma.
A little plumpish Vijay Verma because his cheeks are more round.
It's a compliment only.
He doesn't know who it is, so he's trying to figure out.
You don't know who Vijay Verma is? आजकल तो वो हर OTT में.
आजकल आया, but पहले नहीं पता था.
Now he's
But thank you
dating
guys.
Tamanna also.
ये BTS में बहुत सारी चीजें चलेंगे, but thank you for doing this and really appreciate. I love it. I love the time and I hope you guys liked it. I hope this was slightly different. And I know you don't,
This
both,
was very different by
Yeah,
far.
this
and
has
I
been
know that
like
both of you don't come together on shows. I'm very fortunate to have you guys here, and I'm very happy that we did this in the Josh Talk studio.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Means
much.
a lot.
Yes, this has
And
been
thank you
fantastic.
for the lifeboat, and thank you for making me a part of your lifeboat.
Thank you, Vinayak. Thank you for being there in the lifeboat.
It's too emotional now to say anything. Bas.
So thank you, friends. That was Supriya and Shobhit of Josh Talks. Signing off till we meet next, and the next episode with the next bunch of crazy guests.
So I have an issue. I can't understand poetry. I don't relate to poetry. Like, so I have to break it down and
Understand.
yeah, I can't connect to poetry. Like, it's a major issue.
Cut. At times also the mindset.
Yeah.
So this brings us to the last segment.
Can we just do one cut here? I'm so sorry. There's Vanchika is just standing outside. Can you tell her we'll wrap up in 10 minutes?
Hi, this is Vinayak Burman. I hope आपको उतना ही मज़ा आया इस एपिसोड को देखने के लिए जितना मुझे आया इसको बनाने में. And if you think this adds value to your life, if you think this will teach you something, if you think this will help you to learn and create something in your lives, then go across and like, subscribe, share and comment. It will mean the whole world to me and my friends. If you don't have time to watch the entire podcast, then do subscribe to Vinayak Burman Clips and Vinayak Burman Shots, where we take out the most relevant extracts, the most important extracts of those podcasts, of those stories, of those moments for you and for your benefit, so that you can try and understand the gist of the whole conversation and yet take a lot of learning home. Till we see you next time, signing off, Vinayak Burman.